Yeah, welcome. What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? I'm excited to report back for a video. I've just posted the link in the live chat for anybody who was watching. If you want to come in, join, chat, listen to the mania that is going to be Micheal fucking Knowles' compass test. So that's going to be just oodles of fun. So yeah, Micheal Knowles, just for anybody who doesn't know who he is, he works for the Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's. I'm not going to denigrate it by saying news organization, but his group, right? It's his group. Um, I've seen Ben's compass test. I have not seen Michael's. I've just heard that it's a little bit hot, shall we say? But I haven't actually seen. I haven't seen Michael's. I have seen Ben's. Ben's was who. Ben's was who. Yeah, that was bad. Oh yeah, Kendon, I see that you're here, man. There's a link this in the chat there if you want to join. Um, I just got a message on my Discord, I think. What was I saying? What was I saying? Yeah, basically, that what the fuck? Yeah, Ben's was fucking terrible. Micheal Knowles works for him, so probably somewhat aligned, right? But yeah, I guess we'll just kind of go from there. How you doing, Crafty? Kendon, no, so it's not a Discord link, man. The comment that I have, like right there, just click that link and you'll come into the room. Crafty, if you're up for it, if you want to come in as well and have a chat, that's perfectly okay. So yeah, just kind of whilst we're gonna wait for Kendon and for possibly Crafty to come in. Yeah, again, look, I always kind of favor doing blind reactions, because I just kind of think that like your first reaction is the best reaction, and after that you're just like, so if you watch a video and then you're responding to it, you're trying to like recreate what your first reaction was, and it's just not as authentic. It's not as good, I don't think. So yeah, Crafty is warm out for moving into her new place. Oh, okay. Well, I hope everything is. Oh, it's not showing up in the chat for you. Oh God. Oh, right. Okay. That's possibly why. Then, Kendon. Very, very sorry, guys. Thanks. Thanks, P Mars, for telling me. There you go, guys. There's a new link. Anyway. Um. So yeah, it's in the description. I don't actually think it is in the description. No, that's the Discord. um. Yeah, I was just going to say it's probably definitely not in the description because like I'm very bad at YouTube. So yeah, first reaction is the most authentic, all that sort of stuff. So I've heard not very great things about it. I've heard not very great things about it. So yeah, we'll burst on. I'm going to yeah, if Kendon is still here, man, the link should definitely be there now. Should definitely be there now. So I'm just going to, just because, for literally just for handiness sake, I'm going to add my phone so I can control StreamYards from my phone. Because it just again so much fucking handier. So there we go. Um yeah, Kendon. How you doing, man?
Can't reasonably complain, you?
No, all good, all good. It's good to talk to you again so soon.
And you, sir?
Yeah.
I'm now trying to work out how to get my camera sorted. My camera is misbehaving because it does that.
Okay,
Right now,
that's no problem.
why is my camera misbehaving?
Oh,
Hello again. Now, why is my camera not doing that? One moment, please.
yeah, that's very odd. That's pretty odd that that's happening. Because it worked basically perfectly the last time. Apart from the connection issues, of course.
Well, exactly. Yeah, this is the thing. Well, yeah. I mean, we won't talk about those.
No. That was a dark time. We won't talk about that.
No, terrible dark time. Here we go. Maybe this is the thing. Has there been a change? No, there
No, not
hasn't.
on my end anyway.
Right, hang on. What I'm going to do? Let me just. Right, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go back out and come back in again. If you want to start without me, that's absolutely fine, and I'll just have to carry on and try and work out what's going on.
No, that's no problem.
Yeah. Okay, you take.
I can see him on. Is this working? No, it is not. I'm just going to reload that. Oh, dear God. Very, very sorry, guys. Just bear with me. We will be starting extremely soon. Very, very sorry. Again, very, very sorry. Kendon should be back in pretty soon. I'm going to be able to do that from my phone. I'm just going to burst on with the video. And as soon as Kendon is back in, then we'll add him in. There's, all cool, no problem, everything good there and everything. So yeah, remove you. Okay, let's burst on with this. Again, yeah, haven't heard great things, but we shall burst on, and yeah, let's just go.
I'm very excited to take the political compass test.
Sorry, guys, just gonna bump that down to 720 because it gets all fucky when it's not with because I don't know. It just gets weird if I do it this way.
I'm
it just
very
gets weird.
excited to take the political compass test. It's become very popular because people are obsessed with themselves. They don't really care about politics or anything. They just want to answer questions about themselves for like 15 or 20 minutes. So
I find that to be largely true, actually, to be fair. Sorry, Kendon, I don't know how much of that you had heard, but he basically just said that the political compass test was more about like people than it was about like the ideas or whatever. That's kind of like the gist of what he said, and I find that to be generally true.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment. It's a fair comment.
That people are kind of obsessed with themselves and trying to figure out stuff about themselves rather than, yeah, I find that to be a reasonably fair comment.
Yeah, it's very good.
All right, sure, just
listen, I'm not better than that. I'll go right in and do it. I remember I saw this test a while ago. I remember it was kind of a left-wing thing, like I didn't agree with all the questions, but I guess we'll just have to see. So it's along the left-right line. We know that difference. And then there's another axis, which is authoritarian or libertarian, meaning you could be a left libertarian. That would be some like free love hippie, right? And then you could be a left totalitarian or authoritarian. That would be like Bernie Sanders, whose honeymoon's in the Soviet Union. Or you could be a right-wing libertarian, which would be sort of like Rand Paul or Ron Paul, his father. Or you could be a right-wing authoritarian, which would be like Genghis Khan or Attila the Hun. I bet.
Wait, what?
It's a little simplistic, isn't it? Just a smidge.
Did he say Genghis Khan? But like, we don't know the politics of Genghis Khan. Like, what the fuck?
We know he was a genocidal warlord. That's about it, really.
Well, yeah, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's really, really weird. Why would you not?
His analysis meets with my disapproval.
Yeah, like if you're talking about authoritarian right, like why can't you just say Hitler? Wait a minute. Wait a minute now.
That's
because I've heard
date, Stephen.
I've heard quite a lot, not a lot of good things about this. Is this okay? Just for anybody who is in chat, if you have seen this video, does he go full mask off in this video? Because I don't know if I'm able. I really, really don't know if I'm able to fucking react to that. Oh god. All right. Okay. Let's just burst on.
I'm going to be closer to Genghis Khan and Attila the Hun, but we will answer the questions and wait and see.
You have to fuck up really, really badly to get authoritarian right on this quiz. Like, what he said there is true, that this is biased towards the, left side. Like, that, like, it basically, like you have to get to the question about, like, should we eat babies and answer that incorrectly for you to get authoritarian right? Like, it's really difficult.
I remember completing this particular test and was actually terrified of what my political leanings were, because again, it is as sophisticated as it seems. It is a blunt tool in many respects. It doesn't cover every possible policy, but yeah, no, casual Tory. So dick, but not a total dick. So yeah, I mean, how badly do you have to? Yeah, you're right. How badly do you have to cock this up to get authoritarian right? As in, make it wins. That's a special kind of evil, really. Shall we find out? Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's no point in us kind of guessing when we can just find out, right?
Well, it's only 20 minutes, so
Well, you see, and I'm sure that Keela is going to pop up in the comments like right now. I turned doing the compass test into an hour-long video, so
nice.
I mean, if we're reacting to a 20-minute video, that's there's the potential that this is going to be long. But look, it's only the potential, so we'll give it a shot.
This
first question. If economic globalization is inevitable, so right off the bat, we know that this test is just bogus because globalization is not inevitable. We proceed. If economic...
It says if. But... This is not even. I'm not even arguing that, like, economic globalization, like, is a good or bad thing. I'm not even saying that. But he's just saying that that's not going to happen. But the question says if. He's being really okay. I'm going to try and be as charitable as I possibly can.
Yeah, no, you and I disagree, but on this, you're right. He's absolutely right. He's ignored the conditional and just gone straight for, ranting about economic globalization. Sorry. So yeah, he's forget it. It's fine. He's just not reading. For someone who claims, because he claims to speak about 4 or 5 different languages, he's not very good at reading them, it seems. But there we go.
Okay, I didn't even know that about him, but
yeah, no, he's
definitely good at reading English.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Globalization is inevitable. It should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. Well, to quote Mitt Romney, corporations are people, my friend. So it's hard to draw that neat distinction. This is an extremely dumb question. But I guess if at the heart of this question is, should economics serve purely abstract ends or should it serve human ends, then it should serve human ends. Very dumb question. So I am going to agree. I won't strongly.
But wait, it's not a question. That's not a question. It's a statement that you agree or you disagree with. It's not a question. None of these are questions.
You're spoiling the magic.
Literally, none of them are questions.
No.
Why is he calling them questions? Does he seriously not...
Question is also a substitute for issue, isn't it? It's a synonym for issue. The question of X. So maybe he gets a pass that one. But you're right, he's not really reading it. He's sort of picking up phrases and playing with them, which is rather disingenuous.
Yeah.
So was it? Well, he said agree. So if economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve.
I lost your audio there, man. Are you gone? Yeah, he's frozen. This is super fucking unfortunate. This didn't happen for ages. Wait, like, who the fuck is... Okay, mods, get rid of that person that's in the chat there. I'm not even going to say his fucking name, but everyone knows who it is. Everyone ban him. Is it like am I roboting really, really badly? Is it like no, there we go. So I'm oh yeah, it's just Kendon that's gone. Math Pig, Keela, you guys are both mods in the thing. Will you just Gavin's wife ban him, get rid of everything, just do all that shit. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is after handling with Kendon, but I'm sure he'll be back. Okay, let's just burst on with this.
But I'll agree. I'd always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. Agree. Of course I would. How can your country be wrong, just like completely, totally wrong? It can go through challenging political times. It can have bad or dumb leaders, but your country itself is your country.
Okay.
I could no more renounce my country than I could renounce my own family. No one.
Okay. He's definitely going to get authoritarian right. He's definitely going to get that.
I agree completely. He says, I would always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. No, that's a very stupid position. Countries make mistakes all the time,
yeah,
and small. Your country should be the first thing you criticize before you criticize foreign powers, in my opinion.
Yeah, of course.
If you're a patriot, if you love your country, then you should be able to admit that it's flawed and therefore needs to be improved in some regard. So I would always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. It depends what you mean by support. If he means support like in every action, every decision it makes, then he's mad. But if he means I must love my country, whether it was right or wrong, then maybe there's some wiggle room. But yeah, I don't like the answer to that question at all.
Yeah, that's. Mm-hmm.
Chooses his or her country at birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. Well, it's foolish to be proud of everything because pride goeth before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. However, I suspect the way this test is using pride is like affection or loyalty or love of country. That's often what people mean when they say national pride. So I will strongly disagree with that.
Why does he keep doing this? Like, this question is so stupid, but I'm going to answer it in a way that is made up or like that is accounted for by the test.
Well, because he thinks he's superior, intellectually superior, and wants to prove that the test is too daft. So maybe if he gets the wrong answer, or if he gets an answer that is unpalatable to his audience, he could just claim, "Oh well, the test is wrong." Whereas if he gets an answer that he agrees with, he goes, "Oh well, maybe the test is actually better than I thought it was because it's got roughly the right idea." So he's just challenging the very. You're right. He's just being silly.
Yeah, like okay. Like I am trying to be as charitable as I possibly can, but I mean, like, if he starts, like, he's going down this road, and if he continues to go down this road, then Kendon, you are going to witness firsthand one of my absolutely legendary rants. So.
I've had a taste of one of these rants already. We barely know each other, but I am readily prepared. So I have a bottle of beer as well, just to numb the pain. So it's fine. Carry on. The next question, though, the next issue, though, is that's going to be the eye opener, I think.
Oh shit! Yeah. This is the question, right? It's literally just saying, like, are you racist? That is the question. Are you racist?
Do you think social race has superior qualities? Go on.
Oh god!
Like,
I want to know, but
do it.
Race has many superior qualities compared with other races. Well, obviously, if we're referring to the Sicilians, my swarthy skin would be something. Our ability to knead pasta is a superior quality. This is a tricky question because I suspect
this is a tricky question. Oh, holy fucking god! He's going mask off. But oh god.
Is civilization or culture. Very often you'll hear civilizations referred to as a race, but that's very different than the sort of essentialist biological sense of race, which is, how we're born. It's difficult to know what they're saying. Probably we should err on the side of them writing a video.
It's asking about race. It's not about your culture or where you were born or like his fucking Sicilian skin, like whatever bullshit he fucking mentioned there. That's holy fucking god. He's just thick as pig shit, isn't he? Like he's just thick as pig shit. Have I lost Kendon again? I have. Oh no, I have not. What the fuck happened there? I added, I heard a click, and then he went again. All right. Well, that's very upsetting. But he's literally not even fucking.
What did he say? What was his response to that question?
I'll go back a couple of seconds.
If you
Sorry,
would.
man, I didn't.
No, that's all right.
No, you weren't there.
No.
Well, here, civilizations referred to as a race, but that's very different than the sort of essentialist biological sense of race, which is, you know, how we're born. It's difficult to know what they're saying. Probably.
But he said like culture or the type or the country that you're from or some bullshit. But that's not the question. Yes, soldier, this is live, by the way. Oh my fucking god. I genuinely, like, I don't even.
Why is he even trying to define the term? Surely in the context of this questionnaire, it's obvious. We're talking about a biological race. It's actually a social construct, but we're talking about biological race, are we not? Or that's what they're alluding to. They're not referring to a cultural history or anything like that. What on earth is this man babbling about? There should be no debate at this point. The statement is obvious in its meaning, and then one agrees or disagrees as and when, you know, in accordance with one's political. Why is he debating this? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's just super fucking weird.
I was going to say, do you see something that I don't, Stephen? Because I'm genuinely baffled.
No, I'm literally just as fucking confused as you are. I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about.
Could this be an act of pseudo-intellectual obfuscation? He's trying to make it sound more complicated than it is because he wants to give a very simple answer that might annoy or terrify people. Is that a credible, if cynical, position?
I'm just gonna be honest with you, man. Like I genuinely, I'm just so unbelievably fucking confused right now. Like I don't know. Like, does he think that like he's smarter than the test? Is that the kind of like the road or the avenue that he's going down? Because like
I think what he's trying to, if I may be bold, I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to suggest that there are nuances that these statements are not covering, which if he is playing his audience, he might be doing that to, if this test comes out and he's like an authoritarian right, you know, to the right of Attila the Hun, he can claim, yeah, but I've only gone to that position because the test is clumsy. Whereas if he gets the answer that he wants, perhaps he's going to say, well, okay, maybe the test is okay, but it's flawed. I think he's trying to make it more complicated than it really is. Because let's face it, the statement there is really easy to answer. Whatever your answer is, you can give an answer to that statement. You don't need to really think about it. You just make your case and move on. So I don't understand at all why he's finding this so complex.
Yeah. I mean, like, that would be literally the most, like, that is the easiest question on that test to answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's the easiest question to answer. So,
definitely.
Oh God, let's try and burst on.
We should err on the side of them writing a very bad question here. And since there is neither Jew nor Greek nor slave nor bond in Christ Jesus, I have to vote against the apparent racism. I will say that I disagree with that. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
But he couldn't even strongly disagree, though. Like, I know that that's like a nitpicking point, but he did obviously answer like correctly, but like, come on. It's okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. This is going to be 4 hours long.
Time. Maybe not your friend forever, but certainly for a time. That's how politics works. That's all how human relations work as well. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Well, there's no international law, so I guess I strongly agree with that. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment.
Whoa. military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. What the fuck did he say to that? That it was like bullshit or something like that? That international law was like horseshit or something? Isn't that what he said?
No, international law is a bit of a ropey concept because, of course, there is no international law court, so it's difficult to enforce. I mean, obviously, you've got the Hague and things like that, and obviously you can have UN sanctions or whatever, but because there is no international court, it's an odd concept. It's not like civil or criminal law in a nation state. It doesn't work quite the same way. It's more like a set of intentions or principles than it is.
Oh.
I mean,
How you doing, Keela?
Hello.
hello, Crafty Keela.
Hi, how are you?
I can't reasonably complain. Do I call you Crafty or Keela or KK or
Either
Ms.
one.
Keela or...
Either one. I
Okay.
don't care.
Keela is
Some people call me Crafty. Some people call me Keela. I don't care. Okay. So the military action thing. What he's just said is he does not see or he does not recognize international law. That's basically what he just said. So therefore, military action in a conflict is justified. That's what he's just said. He does not recognize international law. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what he just said.
Do
Do you disagree, Kendon?
Say again? What was that, Stephen? I missed that.
Are you in agreement with what Keela just said, like, or do you disagree, or?
I think, as I say, I need to hear the wording precisely. I'm not doubting Keela's word at all, but if what Keela has said is true, if that's a neat summary, then yeah, international law, basically nation states can decide what they need to do at any given time in accordance with their own constitutions, etc., and balls to the international community. That's his position. If what Keela says is accurate, and I've no reason to doubt a word. So yeah, that's a little bit scary. A little taste of American exceptionalism, if to use a posh phrase.
Yeah, and the other thing I've noticed since he started, he's going on the road of I'm a Christian before I'm a citizen. So you wondered why he took so long to answer the last question about race, because what he was talking about is, can you separate race and can you separate race and culture? But we're all one under the eyes of God. That's basically what he was trying to figure out. Can he go on the sociology terminology of or terms of race, or does he go by the biblical sense? That's why he was so confused, because he's ultra Christian. And he's playing that audience. He's definitely playing that audience. That's why he keeps mentioning the Bible and mentioning God and mentioning faith. So it's just something to think about when you're listening to his answers. He is coming at it first as a Christian.
Right. Well, as I know, and piggybacking on Keela's point there, if he's an ultra faithful Catholic, because he's a Roman Catholic, who believes that nations can decide their own destiny irrespective of international law, would that make him some sort of modern American crusader? Is that a fair label to pin on him? We will march into these desert countries in the name of Jesus, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the right. He's definitely one of these people. I know a little bit of Micheal Knowles. He's definitely one of these people that you have to be wearing the right uniform. And by uniform, I don't mean clothing.
Okay.
Right, well, we shall crack on, because this video was already a half an hour long and we're only 3.5 minutes in. So,
Yep.
I strongly disagree with that. I love these people. The people who complain.
Whoa, I missed the question. Sorry.
There is now a worrying fusion of information and
entertainment. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. I strongly disagree with that.
Of course you do, mate.
Well, yeah, of course he does, because he's on YouTube and he's given these fucking. Yeah, of course he does.
And he's appeared on Fox News. Now, even though I am a casual Tory, therefore a dirty right winger, I can't watch Fox News because I can read. Fox News is a Marvel movie for fascists. Even I know that. So yeah, of course he's going to say there's not a worrying fusion because it's how he makes his living.
Yeah, I mean, look, the news segments on Fox News it's right wing, yes, but it's palatable-ish. It's the entertainment segments who pass themselves off as news in the later half of Fox. That's what's worrying, and yet he would fall in that category. Those entertainment shows.
But that's kind of why he would disagree with it, though, because if he was to agree with that, then he would be basically arguing against his presence on the Daily Wire, like right now, as he's doing it.
Arguably, he'd be arguing against the Daily Wire itself, and Fox News, and InfoWars, and a whole host of other infotainment platforms. Yeah. Well.
I mean, look at Kendon. Trust Micheal Knowles to make us agree 100% so far. That's
Tusk makes a good point in the chat. Tusk makes a good point. Knowles isn't welcome on Fox after his comments about Greta Thunberg. He was.
What did he say about Greta Thunberg?
He was quite nasty about her. Said that she needed to go back to school, spend more time in school than traveling the world and stuff like that, and she doesn't know what she's talking about, and he was pretty fucking nasty.
Was he one of the people who kept pointing out the fact that she's autistic?
Yes.
And like using that against her? Yeah, like that's just such a dick move. Like, if you disagree with what Greta Thunberg is doing, you know, like
he referred to her as he referred to her as a mentally ill Swedish child.
Right. Well,
yeah.
Well, no, but autism is not mental illness. So
that's
right there, and then he I don't say cancel the man because I don't believe in cancel culture, but yeah,
and that was the nice that was the nice version of what he said. He said worse. Well, he said something similar earlier on in the show, but the clip that got shown around the world was that mentally ill Swedish child, because they were afraid to actually say what he delved into.
Imagine getting
he's a nasty piece of work.
Imagine giving a comment so bad that it gets you banned from Fox News. Like,
well,
right,
Gene said,
you know what I mean? Like,
I'm just gonna I'll read out the entire quote. Okay, that was clipped.
Okay.
If it were about science, it would be led by scientists rather than politicians and a mentally ill Swedish child who is being exploited by her parents and the international left.
But Greta wanted to do that herself.
Yeah, talking obviously about climate change. If it were real and if it were about science, it would be led by scientists rather than...
if it were real. If it were real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
so, and yeah. Not a nice man.
No, not really. Shall we proceed, Stephen?
Yeah.
Shall we watch more of this?
The people who complain about entertainment and politics going together, as if that hadn't always been the case. If going back to ancient Greece and Pericles, when we refer to the greatest, most entertaining orations of all time, we're not talking about the most famous politician. How about Abraham Lincoln? You think that guy wasn't entertaining? He did a roadshow with Stephen Douglas. Give me a break. Best presidents of our recent history. Ronald Reagan, Hollywood actor. Donald Trump, reality TV host. People are ultimately divided.
Hold up. Is he seriously trying to make a comparison between a political tour of Abraham Lincoln and the ultra right wing of Breitbart? Is that what he's doing right there? Because that
he
hurts
is
my
indeed,
heart.
Keela. Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Was my kind of like that's what I was gleaning from it as well. Yeah.
He is trying to say that it's okay for him to mislead people, because at one stage in his career, in his political career, Abraham Lincoln did his job and went on a political tour of the districts in which he was ruling. That's kind of his job.
Yeah, I was going to say every political candidate does that on some level.
Yeah.
There's no.
But but you're also talking about a time. You're also talking about a time where you didn't have a mobile phone. You didn't have internet. The only way to get word of mouth and actually convince governors and other and local officials to back your plans was to actually visit them. Is he actually calling that a world tour or a tour similar to the likes of Donald Trump?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, where like everything is fucking televised. Yeah, and you can just that's oh god.
Yeah.
Proceed,
Just
Stephen.
wanted to make that. Just wanted to bring that up, though.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I know I'm laughing, but if I don't laugh, I'll cry. So
Let's do it.
More by class than nationality. Strongly disagree. That's what Marx thought, and it turned out not to be true. And we saw that play out in the 20th century. Controlling inflation.
people, I think, are kind of more divided by class. I think, like,
well, as a right winger, I take issue with that. I think that I believe in national culture, so I believe national culture brings people together. There are class divisions. I wouldn't be so foolish as to say that there are no class divisions or that they don't matter. But I don't agree entirely. I would put disagree for that one, not strongly disagree. Put it that way.
Yeah, I don't like playing into the class versus culture thing, because oppression is oppression, and when you get into the intersectionality of things, it just like, well, I'm more oppressed than you, and it doesn't help things at all, in my view.
Inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Really, you can do two things at one time. You don't need to just pick one or the other. But I think at the heart.
Oh my god, he's trying to outsmart the like. Oh my god, this. Okay, I'm so sorry. I've been generally charitable to, like, so far. This fucking smooth-brained sub 40 IQ moron is not smarter than this fucking test. It's giving you a hypothetical. It's giving you a choice of one or the other. Like, which one do you? Nobody's saying that you can't do both at the same time. It's just, which one do you prioritize? Which one, like, is more important? Like, oh my fucking god! Like, stop taking fucking issues. Like, there are genuine issues with this test. There are issues with like some of the questions. I fucking say that outright.
You did.
Well, yeah, I did when
you were doing it.
When I was doing the fucking test. But like, it's like. Oh my god, he's not smarter than this fucking this is, oh my god, how, like,
the thing that annoys me though is that he's trying to create conflict where there is none, purely because I think most of the American audience of this video is going to think that this is what smart people do, whereas you're supposed to use your intellect to get to the heart of the issue, not compound it with constant nitpicking questions that don't go anywhere and just filling the air with waffle. That's what he's doing.
Do you hear this, Stephen?
Do I hear what?
Stephen, she said that.
You hear what Kendon is saying.
she said that, not me. That is entirely her. Sorry, Keela, I'm going to drop you in it.
I'm joking. He did the same fucking thing when he was doing it, only he was on the left, not the right. So he can't really talk. But yeah, I think one of the things that he's trying to do is to present, again, like you said, Stephen, if he doesn't get what he wants on the test, then it's the test's fault and the test is inaccurate. If he does get what he identifies as, then it's perfect.
Or at least not as broad as he thought it was. Yeah.
I believe that he has taken this test, and I said it in the chat, I think he's taken this test 70 times before recording. So he knows exactly which ones to click in order to get what he wants.
Well, it's not an unreasonable proposition.
That is my theory.
Slight, and I like do mean kind of slight detour, only because Kendon and Keela, I didn't see in the comments of my stream that I did last night, so I can only just like assume that you like weren't there or whatever.
Regrettably, I wasn't. No,
it's fine. So I did a preview for the stream that I'll be doing on Wednesday, and I'll do it at the end of this stream as well, so you'll kind of see like exactly what I'm going to be covering. But Blair White is the kind of like centerpiece of my Wednesday video. But she did a video a little while ago where she took this exact test, and Vosh, one of my favorite YouTubers, reacted to it and was kind of, obviously there was some disagreements and stuff like that because like Blair White is who she is and stuff like that. But like generally kind of favorable to what it was. But so like her answers to all of the questions, like Vosh was kind of tepidly in agreement with like what she was saying. But at the very very end of it, it came out that her result was in the bottom right quadrant of this test, and Vosh kind of said it on air where he was like, I genuinely was not expecting that because the answers that she gave were typically more kind of left wing. Now this is a little bit, it started off a little bit kind of like conspiracy like, however Vosh mentioned it and one of his viewers went and did the test and answered exactly as Blair did, and the answers that Blair gave would have put her in the bottom left quadrant. But because Blair White is a grifter and she's going out and she's saying, no, that I'm the only good trans person and all the conservatives can come and like me because I'm a trans person, but I'm, right wing and all that, she can't have a result on a test that puts her in the left wing because she's marketed herself as a right wing trans person. So
is it not also possible that maybe the test isn't, something that there's a fault in the algorithm or something like that? That
I was just about to say that it's based on algorithms. I could take that test 7 times and say the same answers or pretty much the same answers, and it would come up absolutely different every bloody time.
Yeah,
because it's an algorithm. It's not reliable.
Whatever one thinks about Blair White, and I have a lot of sympathy for Blair White, personally and politically. She, these things are just like internet things that were created
for
in some
fun.
kind of place. Yeah, exactly. It's not. You're not. It's not to be taken as a serious diagnostic, I don't think. So maybe there's some truth in what Vosh has concluded, but I would be hesitant to jump on board with that one. I think.
Okay, fair enough. It was just kind of something just kind of interesting. It just kind of came up as like a side avenue, but let's just proceed.
Yeah.
Part of this question, should we prioritize abstract economic concepts or should we prioritize people? And I would probably prioritize people. Now, the argument for saying inflation is more important here is because then everybody's property diminishes in value. But the argument for saying unemployment is the bigger issue is that people are made to work. From the moment that our first father, Adam, was in the Garden of Eden, he had a job to do. He was naming the creatures, he was gardening, and he gets kicked out of the garden, and he's got to
Sorry, I couldn't even keep that in.
From the sweat of his brow. So employment here is very...
To be fair, Keela, I thought it. You just said it like at the exact same time that thought entered my head.
Are you too atheist?
I literally just didn't say it out loud. That was it. Oh God.
Here's the thing. I was raised in the Catholic Church, and I was heavily involved in the Catholic Church until, until I got a sense of who I was, and then I realized, nope. So it just, the whole Garden of Eden thing. No, fuck off.
But isn't it? But is it not established papal doctrine, or at least received Catholic wisdom, that the story of the Garden of Eden is metaphor? It's figurative rather than literal.
Yes.
So referring to even in the Catholic Church, so referring to Adam as our first father, and then when he left the garden, is like treating it like a historical event, is either foolish or he's delivering it so deadpan that the humor has passed me by.
No, he actually believes it. But the other thing that made me say, oh, fuck off, is the idea that humans were made to work. We were not made to work. We were made to survive. And throughout our whole existence, pre-farming, it was literally just learning how to survive. Getting food, getting heat, getting shelter, getting water. So because we're social animals, we needed other people around us. That was what we were designed for. And I don't say that as in a designer made us. That is how we evolved. We are a social creature. We need certain things to live. And because we developed a consciousness, then we could think about everything else, about how to make our lives easier. And unfortunately, in some ways, we've made it fucking harder. But the idea that we were designed to work is bullshit.
Yes, I mean, well, I agree with Keeler in this. Jobs are relatively recent.
Yeah.
Up until relatively recently, jobs were you had a skill set for the village, and you were the village blacksmith, you were the village tanner, you were the village whatever, and that was your job. But it was your job, but you worked in a barter system, and your work, you contributed something, everyone else in the village contributed other things, and that's how the village survived. The idea that you're made to work, as in become, a mindless corporate drone, is a relatively recent phenomenon, and is
Yeah.
well, post-industrial one. Well, in fact, no, an industrial one that's obviously evolved into in the post-industrial age.
Civilization,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're talking about something that's only really occurred in the last 2 centuries, if we're being
But
honest.
I will agree with him on one point. While yet you have to take this test with a pinch of salt. The idea that you have to choose one or over the other, inflation over unemployment, is ridiculous because we work on a dialectical system. So things interplay. You can be dealing with two things at once, and that can actually impact the other thing. So he is kind of right, but again, you can't take this fucking test too seriously.
Yeah. Not to kind of, cut any kind of conversation short, but we're 45 minutes into this stream and we haven't even reached the 5-minute mark yet. So
That's impressive.
welcome
You
to my
shouldn't.
channel,
You
Kendon.
should. You
Welcome
should
to
not
my
have
channel.
invited me on. You should not have invited me on.
I was going to say, how long have you given to this, Stephen?
I haven't actually really you see, I don't really give times to my streams usually. Obviously Wednesday was, a bit different because, you were on a set time or whatever. But I mean, I've streamed last night. I streamed for an hour and a half, but I've streamed for 2.5 hours. I've streamed for coming up on 3. It's it's just kind of as long as it takes, really.
Yeah,
I like
mine.
that. As long as it
Mine are
takes.
usually.
Let's make this the
yeah.
longest one ever.
No, mine are max 2 hours. I can't go beyond 2 hours. It just no. But anyway, let's go.
Yeah. That was an anticlimax.
To the human person,
Fail.
I will disagree. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. I agree. A lot less regulation than we have right now, but in principle, I agree. From each according to his ability, from each according to his needs.
Oh my god, how do you get to the correct answer by using the worst possible fucking logic? Oh god, above.
No,
He
see,
just, I love how he just threw that in there. A lot less than we have right now, but I'll agree.
so wait a minute, Mr. Knowles, you believe in regulation of corporations, but you think you should have less regulations than you have now in America, where there are practically no regulations at all. Well done, sir. Yeah, I like capitalism, but even I know that corporations cannot be trusted with anything. I wouldn't trust them with
Yep.
safety scissors or crayons. The idea that you should no, I'm sorry. If they could tip toxic waste in a reservoir, they will do it. Someone somewhere
Yeah.
will give that option, right? And because I know that human beings are devious and money grubbing, and we need devious money grubbing people. They help our economy grow. But yeah, you have to keep them. Look, you can take your dog for a walk, but you have to keep him on a leash. That's all I'm saying. So the idea. What
Yeah.
can someone, Keeler, Stephen, you're clever people, probably right about these things than I am. Can someone explain to me when deregulation became a conservative aspiration? Because I was always under the impression that deregulation was liberal. If you look at Milton Friedman, was a neoliberal. He was not a conservative in his economic policy. It's laissez-faire economics to deregulate. Sure.
Well, okay. There's a lot to unpack in that. But putting it simply, yeah, it was in and around the when did neoliberalism, just to be very, very clear, neoliberalism isn't liberalism as we think of it. Neoliberalism is freedom for capital. It is not freedom in general, where liberalism would be more kind of talking about social freedom. It was freedom for economic development. It was freedom for capital. It wasn't freedom for people. In which case, yes, it is a conservative view, because if you think of conservatives, particularly in and around the 1950s, 1960s, and I think that's kind of where the shift began. And right through, it was tested out in Latin America, where economic freedom was given alongside economic freedom was given to capital, not to people. But alongside it was the juntas of South America. So you had this absolute bombardment in a political sense and in an economic sense. And that was the only way that they could see pure neoliberalism working. So it was in and around the 1940s, 1950s, as capitalism was expanding after the World War II, that neoliberalism and that kind of thinking kind of seeped into the mainstream conservative values. If that answers the question in a roundabout way.
Okay.
There's a lot there. That's as simply as I can put it. I do,
isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a master's in sociology, so that's a very complicated question.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you very much for the potted explanation. I do understand your point. But yeah, I can see Stephen's desperate to get on with the video.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He doesn't give a fuck. He says he does, but he doesn't. He's like, I can't add anything else to this conversation, so let's move on. That's
yeah,
Stephen
that's kind of more what it is. Yeah.
Keela, you schooled him. Well done. Gold star.
Little bit.
Never mind.
Okay, but in that vein, though, let's continue.
Yeah.
It is a fundamentally good idea. Strongly disagree. That's
of course,
Marx's
because it's Marx.
idea.
Yeah.
It's immoral and just as a practical matter, it never ever works. And actually, at the founding of our own country, after the Pilgrims landed here,
I'm not even going to respond to it. He had to say no to that because it's Marx.
This idea of from each according to his ability to each according to his need, and it turned out nobody worked because some other guy would work for him, and then you would get according to your needs.
Well, fucking shit.
Disagree. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water,
because that's how imperialism works, huh?
Consumer product. No, it's a wonderful reflection on our society that we have so many choices in drinking water. So we can either slum it with the tap water, or we can go with the fancy Fiji. And we get to choose which one we want. Works for me, man. Strongly disagree. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Well, what should it be? What's the alternative? What the left wants to pretend is the alternative is we're all just living like kumbaya, having a great time.
Oh, Tina.
But really, land will always be a commodity that is controlled by a person or a group of people.
Unfortunately, he's right.
Controlled by people like you and me, or by the government, for instance. Certainly not the government. So I strongly disagree with that. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to society. Who is that? Who does that refer to? Probably the nincompoop who wrote this question thinks it refers to people on Wall Street, like investors or bankers.
Yeah.
As though they're just...
Well, yeah, that is what it's referring to.
Yeah, of course it's what it's referring. Right, Stephen. Right, this is getting silly. It's like who else manipulates money and contributes nothing to society but just plays with numbers on the screen? Come on.
Yeah.
Is that
well? The other thing is stakeholders, so or shareholders, whichever term you like. So when you become a business and you move it into a limited company, you open it up to shareholders, and basically these are investment bankers who are not actually bankers. So they invest in your company. They will give you money. It's like Dragon's Den. They will give you the money, but they won't do any of the work. They will just sit on the board and they will attend an AGM once a year. That's literally their job. And they get like about 20 to 30% of your business while you're running around as the owner or as the founder, running around like fucking horseshit with all your workers. This shareholder is sitting and the board of shareholders are sitting doing absolutely fucking nothing. That's also who this is referring to. Shareholders, not just bankers and Wall Street.
Yeah, it's genuinely starting to get on my nerves that like he's not just taking issue with like basically every single question, but that like he just so obviously thinks that he's smarter than this test. Like, well, it's genuinely starting to annoy me. Like,
you also have, well, again, you took an hour, but you also have to remember if he actually just took this test and did it straight. Okay, here's my answer. it's only going to take about 3 minutes. He needs about 20 minutes of content. Therefore, he has to draw it out. And only by criticizing the questions can he do that.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, he could do this in like a 10-minute video. 10-minute video is probably easier to sell on YouTube. I think he's just he likes the sound of his own voice or something. He's just waffling on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
He does.
Okay, let's burst on.
Just sitting at a desk, like shuffling piles of money around. That's not how the financial services industry works. But businesses adds liquidity.
I work in a bank, mate. I can tell you for free.
Money in
That's exactly how it works.
To create products. It's so dumb. So I reject the premise of the question, but even getting at what they're trying to say, strongly disagree. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Strongly agree. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. I disagree with that. I mean, it's hard. I'm right in the center on that. I mean, that is the primary objective of a company is to deliver a profit to its shareholders. But a company does have other roles in society. And actually, the reason it's complicated is because the neglect of those roles in society can generate a lot of bad PR and ultimately stop the shareholders from getting their profits.
Okay, hold on. Bad PR. Bad fucking PR. That is what he's focusing in there on. And it's interesting that he chose those words, bad PR. It's not that they actually play a role in society and delivering jobs. It's not that they deliver services or goods. It is the roles that they play is only important in their image, in the image that they receive, and therefore sell their goods for their shareholders.
That's what I took away from his observation. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to pull that one.
No. You're all good.
Really, I would throw the whole thing out, but if I have to try to get at the heart of what it's saying, I guess I would slightly disagree. The rich are too highly taxed. Strongly agree. The rich
of course you do.
All the taxes in this country, and so
wait,
sure.
What the fuck did he just say? Did he say the rich pay all of the taxes in this country? In the United States? Is that what he said?
Rewind it back.
I would slightly disagree. The rich are too highly taxed. Strongly agree. The rich pay all the taxes in this country, and so
all the taxes.
Yeah, they pay all the taxes in this country.
In every country. I was going
to say they pay a significant portion of it. I mean, in the UK, for example, the top 10% of wage earners pay 51% of the income tax. So it is. I don't want to say disproportionate. That's the wrong adjective, but it's they do pay. But the idea that they pay all of the tax is ridiculous. I mean, that's.
But here's where my right-wing friends get annoyed with me, and my left-wing friends, for a change, actually like me. My question here is, when it comes to taxation and higher earners paying that amount of tax, why hasn't anyone asked why they have enough wealth in their fucking pockets to be able to pay 50% of the tax? Why is that a thing? That's now I know why that is, but
I was going to say I'm not necessarily anti-rich people. I must confess, but I mean the argument. The only thing I would disagree with his observation is simply that the idea that rich people pay all the tax is demonstrably false, because there are people working at McDonald's who pay tax, and the fact that he's just dismissed those people is just annoying and wrong.
Well, what he's saying is the percentage that they pay is negligible, so therefore it doesn't warrant discussing or taking into account at all.
Yeah, which is that's the bone of contention for me. Yeah. People in America, we've Stephen and I have had this conversation about minimum wage in America already. Working 2 jobs is normal because they can't pay the rent. So the fact that they still are taxed even though they earn very little, so he's just thrown them away. That winds me up. That winds me up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Sure, the vast majority of taxes in this country, and I think they are probably too highly taxed. And I can't wait to become one of those rich who is too highly taxed, and then maybe we'll lower it. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care.
Not going to happen.
It's not even a normative question, like should or should not. It is
Wait, what? I missed that
to
question. I'm
become
sorry.
one of those rich who is too highly taxed, and then maybe we'll lower them. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. That's not even a normative question, like should or should not. It is simply a descriptive matter that it has always been and will always be the case that people
Nope.
with more money have access to more stuff. Any reasonable person.
What?
Not true. Not
the
true.
Fuck is
Not
wrong
true.
with him? What the fuck is wrong with it? Like, just from the premise that he tried to lay it out, that's objectively false. We have on this stream Kendon, who is living in the UK, and you have a fucking socialized healthcare system in the UK. So how much money you have does not dictate the standard of medical care that you have.
Yep.
Oh my fucking God.
Well,
I mean, the
okay.
only way that sorry for interrupting, Keela. I mean, please go first
Go
if
on.
you like.
No,
well,
go ahead.
What I was going to say is the only way that statement makes sense is if you consider the difference between public and private healthcare. So obviously, I have private medical insurance through my employer, but obviously I rely on the NHS like most people. If you are earning serious coin, you maybe have a doctor on Harley Street in London or something like that. So to a certain degree, I can see where he's coming from, but he's just expressed it clumsily. So the idea that if you're a multimillionaire and you have private medical care, then you might get better quality healthcare in the sense that you're just, there's no waiting lists, there's no delay, the equipment's all top drawer, you've probably got the best medical staff, etc., etc. So to a certain degree, he's right. But strongly agree. Well, no, he's just. But then, of course, he's an American and he doesn't have a decent socialized healthcare service because Americans are silly in that regard.
I want to draw on two examples. Not UK, because UK is a tiered healthcare system, whether you want to believe it or not. In the private healthcare facilities, yes, they do get better and faster treatment. I'm sorry, it's just a fact. It's the same here in Ireland. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Germany.
I wasn't even saying that you were wrong there, Keela. I'm like literally just saying that, like, the fact that we literally have somebody who is from England on the fucking stream.
I know.
Who knows that point is wrong. That's the only.
Germany is a fully publicized healthcare system. And yes, I would argue the other place I was in 2013, I think it was. I spent some time in Cuba. And I'm telling you now, what they've done in Cuba is they have a place the size of a town, just about 20-25 minutes outside Havana. And this place, it's the size of a large town. It's the size nearly of the city of Dublin. Or actually, no, the city of London. That's how big this place is. And it's all the hospital system for the entire country. And it is reachable within half an hour of everywhere in Cuba.
Fuck.
Yeah. Now, their system is completely socialized from the top to the bottom. It's socialized. I spent time there. I was in the hospitals. I was talking to the staff. That is healthcare. And it is a shitload better than the best healthcare centers, the private healthcare centers in the States. It is one of the top healthcare systems in the fucking world. But what I also think he's touching on there is the fact that wealth dictates where you can go. If you want to leave the country in order to get your healthcare, to get the best doctors, you're able to travel because you have the means to do it. So is he wrong in that? Not completely. Is he misguided in every single thing he said? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah. It's what, like, it's why, look, obviously, Keela, I'll like throw out all the invites to all of the streams that I do, but it's sort of like the one downside of having you like on is that you say all the kind of like the brilliant points that I would like also kind of bring up before I do, and I don't have anything to fucking say, and so I'm
trained. I'm
yeah,
actually
okay,
this is what I studied for 6 years.
I'll tell you what, Stephen, I can argue as a Tory twat. I can just come in and just argue with Keela, even though I
bring a
biatch just for the sake of it. Just argue and just give you something entertaining to put on. Yeah, so it's fine. Yeah. Turn a monologue into a dialogue or a shouting. Yeah.
So you
Oh,
rant,
God.
I give the
Oh, God.
information. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you give your left wing points, and I just go bah, stuff and nonsense, and then.
But that's the thing. I don't view myself as left wing. I view myself as centrist.
But you have a master's in sociology.
Yeah.
Okay, I've always thought.
I mean, yeah, it's sort of one of those like rare instances where me and Kendon would kind of agree is that like people who like have a degree in sociology or in psychology or in any of the kind of like the social sciences do tend to be like overwhelmingly left wing. That is like
I've never heard of
that
a
is true.
conservative sociologist. Like I've
Yeah.
never heard of a conservative sociologist ever.
Apart from Peterson.
Oh yeah, you've not. I've seen plenty. I've seen plenty. I've met plenty. I've spoken with plenty. They're fucking nuts. It's
How do
fun.
they survive?
Oh, you'd be surprised. Yeah, no, I've met enough conservative sociologists. They're the ones that are being hired by the Tories. No offense. Okay.
All right, let's parse
I have to
on.
strongly agree with that. Not as a matter of should or should not, but that's just the way the world always works. It's like saying the sun should shine. Strongly disagree. Well, okay, man. Good luck with that one. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. What do you mean
Fucking
mislead
hell.
the public? If we're talking about how markets do need structures around them and guardrails, then sure, I guess I slightly agree. But again, very dumb question. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of
Oh my
predator
God.
multinationals to create monopolies. Yeah, free markets need to protect against certain monopolies, sure. The freer the market, the freer the people. Yeah, generally that's true. Not always, though.
Bullshit.
Especially when you look
No,
at
sorry, no,
multinationals.
no. Sorry, I don't buy that at all. The freer the
Pinochet.
market, well, the freer the market, the freer the people. Yeah, businesses might be free, but then businesses end up interfering in the lives of people, and by buying smaller companies and closing them down, or creating monopolies, or whatever you need. No, it's a daft statement to begin with, but he's just dismissed it without even considering nuance. No, sorry. The freer the markets, the freer the people. I would say disagree. Not strongly disagree, but disagree, because then you end up with companies effectively overruling people. I'm not keen. No. Keela, thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, one of the best examples is Pinochet in Chile. When Pinochet rose to power, when Pinochet rose to power, he did so as a shock and awe treatment to bring in. This is one of the reasons why he was backed by the US, is to bring in neoliberal capitalism to see if it would work. And so he completely opened the reins for capital to do what it wanted in any way, shape, or form, and he backed them up in political oppression. That's what happens. And
government becomes a slave of capital, is it?
Yes, the best example actually is in the US. I if you haven't read it already, Kendon, I would recommend this, and I do it every time I'm talking about this kind of thing. Naomi Klein's Shock Doctrine, best book I've ever read, and in it she's Hurricane Katrina. This is just an example. Before Hurricane Katrina, there was over 100 public schools in New Orleans. After Hurricane Katrina, there were 4. Everything else was privatized to charter schools, because that's what capital wanted. That is what neoliberal wanted. Does that make things better for poorer children? No, they just leave school earlier because they can't afford private schools. That's what fucking happens. So, sorry, I just had to.
I'm gonna have to. I think I've got a copy of the book in my cupboard somewhere. I shall have to read it. Thank you.
Oh, you should. You should. And it's also on audiobooks if anyone wants to listen to it. Not that I'm getting paid to say that. I should.
Yeah,
I should definitely get a commission.
Christ, like if you got that like sweet sponsorship from Audible there, yeah.
Give me commission.
I mean, look, I mean, like in the kind of, in the same kind of veil of, like asking for sponsorship, if there is anybody in the live chat who is working for or who knows somebody who works for Lucozade, I drink it every fucking stream anyway. You might as well fucking, like give me a few fucking quid for doing it.
A socialist seeking a corporate sponsor.
Yeah, but sure, we all have to make money somehow, you know.
I did get an email yesterday or the day before. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. But anyway, I digress.
An email from who?
From people asking me to be a product influencer and fucking Anyway.
Oh, what was the product? Just kind of out of curiosity. You don't have to say or whatever. But
we'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you have no barriers to trade, for instance, and you're outsourcing all of your jobs to another country, and some other country is not playing fairly, and they have a ton of barriers to trade, and they're illegally subsidizing their aluminum industry, and I'm actually just talking about China here, then certainly it is not the case that the freer the market, the freer the people. So I guess I kind of agree, but come on, write better questions.
At least he recognized it, that it's not necessarily
should always be illegal. Strongly agree.
He has to do that. Yeah.
Should be
Screw you.
It's very difficult to make that statement because any rational discourse has to begin with certain premises. A equals A. A plus B equals B plus A. I can't prove those things, but that's where I begin from my assertion. I would have to assume, if I'm having a rational discourse, that truth exists. So you have to assume certain things. Chesterton put it well. He said, there is a thought that stops thought, and that is the only thought that ought to be stopped. So I have to very slightly disagree. An eye for an eye and a tooth
pause
for a
that for a
tooth.
sec.
Holy God.
There's a lot to unpack on that. First of all, truth is subjective. There are certain truths that are fact, but truth, just the idea of truth, is subjective. What he's actually talking about there is socially accepted truths. And there's a big difference between socially accepted truths and truth. His truth is there's a God. His truth is that God controls everything. My truth is evolution happened. Do you know what I mean? So truth in its concept is subjective.
But surely as well, Gila, we could argue that the statement has nothing to do with truth either. It just says all authority should be questioned. I would say agree. That the idea that authority should be A, absolute, and B, inscrutable is nonsense.
It's dangerous.
Well, exactly. Everything must be held accountable. I mean, obviously, I like my authorities and my structure and all the rest of it, and there are certain traditional authorities that I respect and revere, but the idea that you could never question even them is just anti-intellectual nonsense.
It also brings up what is legitimate authority, because last night before Stephen's stream, I was doing a stream on Myanmar and what's happening in Myanmar. If people don't know, there was a coup at the beginning of February, and the military deposed the elected government. In which case, which is the legitimate authority that people should be following? You know what I mean? If you have the conflicting authority,
reasonable question.
Just has to, and also, can I just say, Dick? He didn't even blink when it came to the question of abortion. Not that I expected him to, but screw you.
Yeah. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. What do we think that he's going to answer on that question?
I reckon he's going to pick agree.
I think disagree.
I'm actually somewhat strangely, I'm actually with Kendon on this. I think he's going to agree with it. But let's find out, though.
I don't know.
That's a description of justice. But then forgive your enemies and pray for your persecutors is a description of mercy. So I guess as a description of justice, I agree with that. But what is it?
Oh, well done.
Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. I disagree with that. Schools should not make classrooms.
Wow, okay.
Whoa. What the fuck? What the fuck?
That was
what positions does he hold?
He's all over the map, sir. He's all over
he
the
does
map.
Well, it's not surprising that he's not in favor of arts and history being given to ordinary people. He's an elitist. So if it can't survive on a commercial basis, it has no intrinsic value for him.
No, that's not. I don't think that's what he's saying. Can you go back a little bit?
Yeah.
But it's that it can't survive on a commercial basis.
It says taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theatres or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. So I would argue that tax money should be not necessarily great amounts of it, but tax money should be diverted to certain institutions that are culturally relevant or significant or hold treasures from history, for example. So, like, if the National Natural History Museum in London, for example, could not survive purely on ticket sales, I would support maybe some kind of government subsidy to keep
But
it alive.
here's the thing. Here's the problem, though. Here's the problem, Kendon. Natural history museums prove evolution. He's a Christian. He's like an ultra Christian. You know, he doesn't like evolution. He doesn't like any proof of evolution. And therefore, natural history museums are bad. He's also a free market capitalist. And therefore, anything that exists that can't survive on a commercial basis should not be propped up, should not have any government intervention, aka tax.
But what answer did he give to that statement, though? Because I think he's actually in agreement. What did he say?
I think he disagreed.
Survive on a commercial basis.
Disagree.
I disagree with that.
Yeah, disagree.
Well, but that means then that he agrees with that taxpayers should prop up theatres and museums that cannot survive.
Oh, okay. I didn't see the not.
Yeah, because it's a double negative. So he actually agrees that taxes should be diverted.
Okay.
So give him some credit. I mean,
that surprises me. That surprises me.
Yeah, it does surprise me a little bit as well, actually.
Yeah. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. I strongly disagree with that. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people.
Okay. This is another one of those questions. There was the question, I think it's on the first page of it. It's like basically like, are you a racist? This is another one of those questions like that you have to put disagree. Like at a minimum disagree. Like ideally strongly disagree. But like you have to disagree with that question.
It depends on what one means by people. If it is purely a blood question, then strongly disagree because the idea that people of different colours or whatever. But people could also mean like culture. Religious groups or something. Yeah, cultural, and it kind of it. There are cultural distinctions that other groups might not understand. So to a certain degree,
But that's the problem. That's the problem. If you don't understand it by keeping it separate, it's not going to help the understanding. That's why we have fusion.
Yeah,
agreed. Although some people don't like fusion, but
yeah, no, yeah, that's true. Yeah, we call those people racists. We do.
I mean, if you're like, because I mean, like. If you're in favor of that statement, right, that it's better for all of us that different sorts of people keep to their own kind. I mean, like, even if you're kind of putting it in like a cultural or a religious sense, I mean, like, if you're in favor of like literally segregating people based on their religion or their culture, then I mean, you are in favor of anti-integration. And how is like people supposed to kind of, sorry?
We must separate people to preserve the cultural distinctions.
I think he will disagree. I think he will disagree purely on the basis that it says keep to their own kind. And he will view kind, if he's going on the ultra-Catholic bender that he is, he's going to say disagree because we are all mankind. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Just as like a slightly kind of off question, just because like Kendon, you've done like a few voices and stuff like that. Keela, did you see in my stream on Wednesday where Kendon did a spot on impression of Trump?
I didn't. I missed it.
Okay,
I'll have to go back and watch
that's gonna have to come up at some point tonight, Kendon. I'm just gonna let you know that now.
Keela, so, you're amazing. You're great. You're tremendous. You're gonna be great.
Oh my god,
good things is amazing.
See, this like it's fucking spot on. Like it's really
it's like
good.
A recording. It's like a recording. Well done. I mean, I don't know whether we should be cheering this.
Michael Knowles is a tremendous guy. I watch the Daily Wire every day. It's amazing.
It's so good. I'm sorry, it's just really, really good. Okay.
Moving swiftly on.
Yeah.
Should keep to their own kind. So what the hell does that mean? I guess
you know what it means. Okay, yes. Oh, thank God. All right, okay.
Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Yeah, I guess so. Not a huge fan of corporal punishment, but sometimes you got to do it. I guess it's natural for.
I mean, it's literally been proven that it's like psychologically damaging to kids if you spank them.
I have a sort. Yeah, I was going to say I have a kind of a personal insight into this because I don't come from a particularly pleasant background, put it that way.
Same here.
Yeah, so it depends on what one means by spank, and the reason they outlawed it is because it's too subjective. There's no like standard whereby a couple of whacks on the bum. It's all about how the children respond to that kind of
Yeah.
treatment.
Yeah.
And I mean,
and because it's impossible to predict how an independent individual child is going to respond, you don't know the damage that you're doing. I mean, you might be doing great damage or no damage at all. It's impossible to fathom.
like there were instances in the US where someone slapped their child on the back of the head like you would back in the 80s and 90s and previous. But they were hitting them so hard that they were actually causing concussion.
Yeah, I can
Jesus
believe that
fuck.
totally.
Because they didn't realize how hard they were actually hitting their child.
I was going to say the only reason they banned corporal punishment in the UK, because you used to get the cane and things like that, is because some kids were ending up blind because they were being whipped, and they just basically just whipped wherever they wanted to. So this is why. Yeah, it's a tough one. I would want to say agree in principle, but in practice, it's a little bit. You'd have to be incredibly judicious with it.
I would completely disagree, and the reason why I would disagree is because if you have to resort to violence, then the problem is you, not your child. There is always ways of changing a child's behavior using positive reinforcement, and that has been proven. Positive reinforcement, they respond better. No matter how disruptive your child is, if you have positive reinforcement to change behavior, then they're going to change their behavior. Spanking, actually, part of it is, and again, I come from that kind of background too, part of it is the child either A, expects it and therefore is desensitized to it, or B, lashes out at someone else because they think it's normal, whether that's their own child when they get older or another child in the schoolyard or whatever. There is nothing that comes, in my view, there is nothing that comes good that comes from physically abusing a child, whether that's a slap on the bum or a beating. It doesn't help.
Well, the only thing I would do is I would draw a distinction between, as you put it, a slap on the bum and a beating. I mean, yes, I agree. Positive reinforcement. I mean, look, Keela, I used to be a teacher, so obviously we were taught how to manage children. But some children can't actually be managed, and so you just let them run riot effectively, because obviously I didn't want to go around abusing kids. That's not the way I do things. But there are some children who are just bad seeds, and they do exist. So yeah, maybe positive reinforcement would have worked on them, but if so, I wouldn't know of how to have used the method. So I would have to concede defeat on this. I would have to concede defeat on this.
I mean, you would have to be trained. That's the problem.
Yeah.
All right.
Took a dark turn.
Children
Next one.
keep some secrets from their parents. Yeah, it's natural. Probably shouldn't encourage it if you're a parent, but that is natural. Strongly agree. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Disagree. I don't really care. I just hate that potheads try to make marijuana legalization like the civil rights struggle of our times. Give me a break, guys. Good grief. It's also different than booze in that booze has always been in our civilization, going back to the ancient old-timey days. Christ's first miracle is turning water into wine for drunk people. So it's been around a long time. That's why prohibition didn't work. But marijuana is just some new thing.
Oh my God.
Thing. So it seems
marijuana has literally been around for longer than alcohol has.
Can we just say he compared fucking the whole idea of Jesus turning the water into wine for drunk people?
Yeah,
What
for drunk people. Yeah, it's a
that's funny.
It's a pretty anti-Christian sentiment that this ultra-Christian
he was an enabler. He was an enabler.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a criticism of your Lord and Savior there, Michael.
Right. One thing that I will criticize him on, is the idea that potheads, as he put it, are trying to make marijuana legalization the civil rights movement of our time. Here's the problem. It's not potheads. It is people who, especially the drivers of the legalization for marijuana, is actually driven by people who desperately need it for medical reasons. Now, I am not for the legalization of drugs because I think it it sends it to the black market, and you're better off regulating drugs rather than outlawing it, because people are going to do it anyway. So make it safe, make it available, and have the help available that's needed, and have education, because one of the biggest things about drug use is there is no education. And so it's easy for people to fall into the pitfalls of getting addicted when they don't understand the substances that they're taking. I do want to say that the people that are driving forward the legalization of marijuana are not just simply potheads. They're people who study these plants, who have a lot of knowledge of herbology and ecology and everything else. It's not just stoners. And I just don't like the reductionist terms that you use.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, obviously, I do agree with everything that you just said there, Keela. But I mean, like, it's so weird to me to hear like that sort of language coming from the right in particular. And I'm going to kind of localize it to the States, Kendon, not to kind of lump you in with this, because I genuinely, from what I know of you, I genuinely don't think that you'd be kind of in this camp, and that you would actually kind of argue against it as well. Again, from what I know of you, you can obviously feel free to correct me. But when, the right in the States, and Michael would definitely be in this camp, when they're talking about the fucking war on Christmas as if it's fucking Normandy, like, get a fucking grip on yourself.
I know, yeah.
Like, it's just really, really weird, the fact that he's comparing this to the fucking civil rights movement of our time, when it's like you literally feel like you're at war because the fucking cashier in a fucking Denny's said Happy Holidays rather than Merry Christmas. Like it's just, yeah.
That is slightly cracked, I must admit. There is hyperbole in this sort of right-wing rhetoric. Bear in mind that Republicans are more right-wing than the Conservative Party in the UK as standard anyway, so a lot of what they come out with is slightly warped. You are right in the sense that the major problem with marijuana, I mean, I don't approve of the legalization for various reasons. I have personal issues with the legalization of drugs, but I do recognize that harsh, draconian sentencing does not work. It is not a deterrent against drug use. And it is ridiculous that potheads, let's use his word, are sent to prison for ridiculous lengths of time. And of course, the American judicial system is so brutal that when they come out, they're effectively still in prison because there are various things they can't do because they're ex-cons, etc. So look, put it this way. I know people who have succumbed to cannabis psychosis. So it's not harmless. It can be abused and it can lead to long-term mental, physical effects. And I'm not going to hear anybody who says it's harmless or anything like that. But the idea that you should punish a person for the rest of their life for puffing on one joint is absurd and should be resisted and, in this case, reformed. So, yeah, the idea, but you're right. The number one cause for legalizing marijuana, or at least controlling it in a more liberal fashion, is because it has medical use. That's a perfectly reasonable revision of existing law.
It's not just the fact that it's for medical use. That is a big leading factor for me. But it's also the fact that I know people. I come from an area where drugs has been absolutely rampant, and the drugs task force in our area were Trojan workers. People were dying on the streets. We couldn't walk on the grass in case there was a used needle at one point. It was so bad in our area. Biggest problem was lack of education on what people were taking. The other thing, especially with the United States, there are things more addictive and more dangerous that are legal, like opioids.
Yep.
And what I'm saying is it is better I'm for regulatory capitalism. I'm for regulation. I'm not saying just bring them out onto the streets and then let it go. Regulation. If you have a heavily regulated dispersion rate, I was for the first Dublin clinic that people could actually get heroin, which is opening up in Dublin, because it's somewhere that they can shoot up legally, safely, legally. And again, if they need the services, they're there. It's not pushing it underground and into secret, because that's how people die, is when you can't turn to the health services because you're afraid of being arrested.
Well, as I don't know the peculiarities of the Dublin heroin service that you've described. I can't reasonably comment. As I say, as I know members of my family are basically heroin addicts. When it comes to H in particular, I just hate it. And it's a pathological age. So I think without knowing the details of that, I can't reasonably comment. So I won't say yay or nay.
It's a center where it's basically a room where you can go, you can get clean needles. They have the heroin anyway. It gives you free needles. It gives you somewhere to be protected, and that's the basic idea of it. It's not supplying heroin. It's just giving people a safer option if they're going to be doing it in Dublin. That they're being monitored. And that if anything happens to them, they're actually able to help them. Whereas if they're on the streets and they're doing it in a back alley, nobody's going to know.
So do they supply the substance, or is it where they can take the right, okay, that's slightly different then. No, that's fine. So it's basically it's a smack shelter. It's effectively it's where they can go and do right. That's slightly different. That sounds more reasonable. Because if they are going to do it, you might as well have it done under supervision, so that if it goes wrong, you can rush the paramedics in. No, I can see the wisdom in that. That makes sense to me. But yeah, well, it's not quite. We saw what he's describing, certainly.
Let's get back to him.
Let's go back to the actual video.
Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird that the conversation that we're having is more interested in what he's fucking talking about?
I know.
No. It's not weird at all, because this is Daily Wire stuff, and a lot of it misses, some of it hits, but yeah, he's pandering, isn't he? Let's be honest. He's just pandering.
He is.
Mm-hmm.
It's to me better not to introduce that into our culture. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Strongly disagree with that. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Strongly disagree with that. The left, I think, strongly agrees with that. In Iceland last year, there was a headline. They said, Iceland has eradicated Down syndrome. Said, you eradicated it what? Like you came up with a cure for it? And it turned out, no, they just kill all the people who have Down syndrome in the womb. So that's
fucking shit.
The most important thing for children.
Sorry.
That's not the question. Because these aren't questions, they're fucking statements. But that's not the statement that he's disagreeing with. What that statement would be is you would be presenting him with a couple who both of them have an inheritable disability, and you're basically saying, should they be allowed to reproduce, knowing that there's a high likelihood that the child is going to have that disability, and you're deciding whether that should be allowed or not. That's what the statement is. But then he had to use it. Yeah, then he had to use it to fucking twist this thing about. Oh
abortion.
God.
Yeah, and may I say, just sorry, real quickly. May I say, there are a lot of parents who have the option for abortion, and when they get the diagnosis of Down syndrome, they choose not to abort. So the idea that every person in Iceland or every person in a country where abortion is legal is going to choose that option if there is special needs is bollocks. I'm sorry, it's just bollocks.
There is, however, a great reduction. I did a TikTok because I'm Kilo, just to make it. I'm TikTok famous, which is of course the worst kind of famous. And I did a video on this because when I was doing my teacher training, I did a placement in an SEN school. In fact, I did placement in two, but one was it. And I mentioned the fact that I was given a tour of the building by the vice principal, the deputy head teacher, and he pointed out to me actually that he was talking about their population, the kind of conditions that come into the building, and he pointed out that Down syndrome children have basically dropped off the map. Very few Down syndrome kids are being admitted into SEN schools, or at least around in England, because parents are opting to do the necessary before they're even born. So there is some, but I agree with Stephen. This is not what the statement's about. The statement is about, do you think we should sterilize people with disability? No, sorry, that's a little bit goose steppy for my taste.
Yeah, you got very, very goose steppy.
Let's not be doing that. Oh, dear.
So, Kendon, if I'm understanding you correctly, then what you're saying is that Hitler was like totally wrong.
Well, do you know what? It's a radical position. It's a radical position, but
yeah, totally. Yeah.
I think that
It's a hot take.
Mr. Hitler, not a nice man. Some very questionable policies. He's just not a cool dude, and did some pretty iffy things, if we're being honest. No.
All right, let's start talking.
To learn is to accept discipline. Dumb question, but I guess I'll agree. There are no savage and
Fuck, I missed the last question. Sorry. The most important thing for children to accept is to learn is to accept discipline. What the fuck? No, wait. What did he answer there?
Disagreed. He disagreed.
All right. Okay.
Oh, he agreed. No, he agreed.
I
Dumb
agree.
question, but I guess I'll agree. There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. Strongly disagree because I have eyes. So you look around. I mean, gosh, look at so many modern cultures are more savage than tribal cultures. Those who are able to work and refuse.
Okay, so a couple things. Dumbass statement, but also he didn't give any fucking examples. So
that would have been helpful, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So had he have said, had he have named a country, then there's something for us to respond to. But it's just the kind of idea now that is all that we're left with, because he didn't give any fucking examples, which is very weaselly. But
no, it is a bit. I mean, sorry, carry on, Keela.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, all I would say is that when the problem with the phrases savage and civilized is that there's a lot of imperial baggage to that. I can certainly argue that there are cultural customs around the world that I would consider less refined, less sophisticated, even monstrous. But yeah, I think if you look at the phrasing of the statement, it's like that the entire culture is backward. Can you scroll back a little bit, Stephen?
Yep.
If you just obviously not his response, because his response is rubbish anyway. There are no savage and civilized peoples. Well, I'm sorry, but that's a false dichotomy, because any established people around the world is civilized to a certain degree. It's about whether you actually appreciate the tenets of their civilization. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's not like cavemen versus Americans or something. That's not the distinction that is even vaguely credible. No, I don't like that. You're right, Stephen. The statement's rubbish. I'll stop rambling now. It's late in the day. I'm just waffling at this point. Keela, did you have something to
yeah, I was just going to say that.
No, it's all right. You kind of covered it.
Okay, fair enough. Carry on.
The opportunity should not expect society's support. Strongly agree with that.
Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity. Yeah, so I kind of went over this when I was doing the the test myself, which was that that's a very Kendon had said it in the last response. It's kind of like a false dichotomy, because you don't know the conditions around why somebody who is physically and mentally able to work but choose not to, because I think the examples that I gave are people who act as carers to their parents and that are not getting paid for it, or that are not recognized by the state as that's their job, but that they have to do that because their parent or their grandparent or sibling, somebody in their household requires 24-hour assistance. So in that case, the person who is doing the assisting is, physically, mentally able to go out and work as a fucking cashier somewhere, but is not able to because they have those additional requirements. So sorry, go on.
No. I mean, I totally agree with what you've said, but there's also another thing I would ask him to. I would ask this statement again. It's a stupid statement. There's the question: what does the word opportunity mean in context? Because one of the things that upsets a lot of my Tory mates is I hate 0-hour contracts. I hate them on principle, because it's a way of driving down unemployment figures without actually giving people work, which I think is slick. So if I come up to someone on the dole and say, here's this 0-hour contract, by the way, you won't get any government benefits, we can't guarantee you'll work every day. If that person turns around and says, I don't want this job because it's I'm going to end up starving or something, then he has the right. It is reasonable to refuse it. So I agree in principle, in the sense that if there are no reasonable objections, you should take whatever job's on offer and get off benefits. But if the opportunity I give you is clearly rubbish, then you should actually have the right to refuse it. So maybe agree, maybe disagree. Yeah, but again, the statement's too vague. I don't like it.
Yeah, it is very vague. It is very vague. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I don't like the just how non-defined it is. Like it's not specified in any way, because as we've just kind of come up with, just kind of off the top of, well, I was obviously referring back to something, but that, like, my previous example that I used in the test that I took, that was off the top of my head, and you probably just come up with that on top of your head. But the fact that we're able to kind of come up with these, like, two very, very, like, good like counters to the assumption that's in the statement, it just makes it a really, really bad statement. Because, and like look at, like, he had said at the start of the video that it's like that there's problems with this test. I fucking agree, there are problems with this test, and this is one of them.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly, because you don't know what you're agreeing or strongly agreeing to, and so yeah, it's a bit of a bust, really. So I might have gone with agree in good faith, but no, it's I wouldn't have been comfortable with that answer.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything anybody else wanted to add?
No.
Okay, we'll burst on then.
When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it.
He's going to answer
Keep
agree.
busy with more cheerful things.
Yep.
I guess I do agree with that. First generation.
It's the thing about the authoritarian leaning people, is that, like, they don't like introspection. They don't like when you look into yourself and try and solve problems yourself. They favor distracting yourself with, as the question says, with, like, more cheerful things. So, like, basically kind of doing the, like, literal version of the phrase, just burying your head in the sand and just hoping that everything just kind of just like solves itself or sorts itself out or something like that. That's it's
Can I also make a point?
Sure.
The point? This cunt wouldn't know a difficult day if it slapped him in the face.
Oh god,
because he's never actually had any serious issues, because he's fucking privileged. Sorry, just wanted to add that.
Well, I mean, as I say, I don't know the background of Mr. Knowles, but what as someone with a history of clinical depression, I can also tell you that it is almost impossible to think about cheerful things, or if you do think about cheerful things, it can cause you pain. So it is, if your brain is broken, as mine has been on occasion, thank God for citalopram. You can't just think about cheerful things. In fact, cheerful things make the symptoms worse, and that can take a rather drastic turn. So at least disagree. That's just a stupid statement.
Completely agree.
So I've literally just Googled it, just in the background there. The estimated net worth of Micheal Knowles is at least $1.53 million. And that is as of the 19th of November last year. So it's pretty up to date.
Well, he's making serious coin. Good luck to him. And never mind.
Immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. I disagree with that. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. Strongly disagree with that. Corporations in corporate America is probably the leading leftist.
Pause it. But did he just say something wise?
I know, right? I know. Broken clock is right twice a day, right?
Good Lord. I'm genuinely stunned. It's like,
yeah,
he did it twice in a row as well.
I know. Wow. Yeah, back to back good answers. That's
maybe he does have a soul to drag out. This is
we're on the up and up for now. I have the feeling that this video is going to be very much of like a roller coaster, where there's those like spikes of excitement where it goes up, but then it's just all just downhill. So we'll burst on and we'll see if we can continue on this upward trend.
They're the ones who go along to get along with anything, because all they care about is dollars and cents. So it might be in their interest to embrace some stupid gender theory or something, but certainly not in in our interest. No broadcasting institution,
Right, that was
however
a weird
independent its
interjection.
content, should receive public funding. No, I disagree with that. You need broadcast for certain public functions, but I do agree that we should probably pull some funding from those left-wingers at NPR. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of
See what he said there?
Jesus Christ, you actually frightened the fuck out of me.
What he just said there was, ha ha ha, yeah, I agree. Pulling public funding from broadcasters as long as I disagree with them. That's what he just said.
Mm-hmm.
That is funny.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably just taking the piss, really, isn't he? To be honest, but no, yeah, it's yeah, but he's right though. You should have public broadcasters for public functions. That makes sense. I can't disagree with him on that one. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. Disagree. Ooh, it's a tough one. Don't know.
Well, I mean, I suppose it's kind of depends on what they're defining as a civil liberty. I mean, you know, I mean, like even kind of now, like one of the kind of civil liberties that like Americans could be depending on is, you know, access to healthcare, and obviously that's been curbed because, you know, the States is still in Afghanistan 20 fucking years later. You know, and in all of the other countries that they're doing. So yeah, there's a point to be made there, but I would kind of say that it does kind of depend on what it's civil liberties as so plural. So I would agree with that. I don't know if I would strongly agree. I'm kind of stumped on that one actually. What did I answer in the previous in the actual test that I did? I'll have to go back and look at it.
Only you can answer that.
Yeah. Keela, had you anything to add?
Nope.
Okay.
Significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. I disagree with that because we won the Cold War, so it seems like we had the advantage. Although the electronic
That's not the reason that you disagree. You click disagree or even strongly disagree because you want a democratic political system. One-party states don't work as well. You need the dialogue. As someone who's lived in a totalitarian state, I know these things. Oh, and he's just thrown in some.
I love how reductionist he is. It's like, I'm not in favor of this because we won the Cold War.
Forgive me, Keela, I don't even think it's reductive. I just think it's irrelevant. He's just throwing in. He knows, right, that his audience just hates the Soviet Union, hates communism, which, you know, well, that doesn't matter what I think. The point is that it's just a cheap shot. It's a cheap shot to keep the punter.
Yeah.
There's no analysis here. There's no depth to anything that he says. He's just throwing it in. If he just said, I hate commies for 20 minutes, he'd probably get 1 million likes on YouTube. So, you know, there's no depth, there's no analysis here at all. Silly man.
I love how we're 2 hours in and we're only 12 minutes into the video.
I'm ready for the long haul, guys.
Let's do it.
I'm ready for it as well.
Let's make this happen.
I mean, I am enjoying this in like a sadistic kind of a way because, like, I know some of the questions that are coming up, and like, given the kind of like answers that he's given so far, like, I can feel a rant coming. I'm not 100% sure where to exactly pinpoint it as to what question, but I can feel it coming though. It's brewing. You know what I mean? It's brewing.
Right, let's go.
Gauge makes official surveillance easier. Only wrongdoers need to be worried. I strongly disagree with that.
All right.
Kidding me? You got the government blackmailing you for that weird thing that you do when you close the blinds? I don't think so. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Strongly agree with that. Purpose of criminal justice.
Oh, how very pro-life of you, Micheal Knowles. Like, you can't answer negatively to the abortion question and then answer positively to this one, because
here's the problem. That this is how they get around it. It's because the idea of it's not the idea of life as sacred. It's for ultra Christians, it's innocent life, and they view an unborn as innocent whereas the criminal is guilty of a crime. Now, let's forget the fact that there are a lot of people on death row who have been unjustly criminalized and who
6%.
didn't actually commit the crime that they were accused of committing. But let's forget all that. They're guilty anyway by a court of their peers, and therefore they deserve lethal injection.
I must admit, I take a bit of both of your views here. I also agree with the distinction between an innocent unborn life and the life of someone who has chosen to do great wrong. So I don't see a disparity between a pro-life position and a pro-death penalty position. The only reason why I object to the death penalty is that in theory it makes sense. Like if you're a serial killer, you should, maybe ought to pay the ultimate price. The problem is in practice it doesn't work, because every posthumous pardon is proof that the system is broken, and a posthumous pardon is possibly the most useless legal document ever. So I would say I'm also not comfortable with the idea of sovereign states having the power to execute their citizens for literally any reason, because the list of capital offences gets longer, it never gets shorter. So again, because I'm wary of giving human beings the power of life and death over citizens, I would say no to capital punishment. But I can see a distinction between innocent unborn life and a criminal that chooses to do great wrong. I can sympathize with that point of view, but I'm not. I don't trust an American state to execute its citizens. I just don't.
Well, here's where I stand on it. I'm pro-choice. I'm openly pro-choice. But the reason why I brought it up is because I talk to a lot of pro-lifers. I tend not to be disrespectful to people's differing opinions, because that is how I learn. That is how I'm able to analyze where I stand, is by being challenged on it. But the whole thing of capital punishment, here's my problem with it. As well as what you just said, is giving the governments or courts the ability to assassinate anyone they deem fit. It also presents the idea that a serial killer or a serial rapist, and as a rape survivor, I can honestly say this, it presents the idea that you can't be useful to society unless you're out in society. Now, not getting all Silence of the Lambs here, but criminal justice has come a long way from studying criminals, from interviewing criminals, and understanding why they made the decisions that they make. Whereas when you cut the person off, when you kill the person, you're taking away the ability to understand the why. And for me, as a sociologist, the why is everything. It's not the what, it's the why that's important.
To a certain degree, I understand, but that I would argue is the purpose of the court trial, to try and understand the motive. I don't care about. I mean, I understand why because you, from an academic point of view, you want to keep these specimens alive for study. I understand that. That makes sense to me. But I wouldn't really care if someone as evil as Ian Brady was given the noose. Again, I speak theoretically, because I understand that practically death, the capital punishment is not used. I mean, I as I say, I used to live in a country where death by firing squad was on the statute books, and next door is Saudi Arabia, where they execute men for the crime of witchcraft with a scimitar on public TV. So I'm not keen on states having that kind of power, but in principle, in theory, I understand that death penalty, if you can make it work, you can make a perfect system, then maybe I'd consider it. But until you get perfection, I'm not interested, because you can't.
And there is no such thing. Oh, there goes my headphones. There is no such thing as a perfect system. That's the problem.
Yeah, you can't unkill a prisoner, so therefore you shouldn't really do it. Throw him in a hole or something. I don't know.
Okay, we'll burst on.
Justice. A secondary advantage of criminal justice is rehabilitation. A tertiary advantage.
Whoa.
The primary advantage should be.
Purpose of criminal justice is justice. A secondary advantage of criminal justice is rehabilitation. A tertiary advantage is deterrence. But the point of it is the justice. It is retributive. It's you commit a crime, you got to get punished for it. And hanging concentrates the mind wonderfully, as Dr. Johnson once observed.
Absolutely
he's smirking
fucking
when he says that.
barbaric. Absolutely fucking barbaric. Like, unironically unevolved, but just absolutely barbaric statement. Like,
The
what's
fact
the
that he
fucking point?
smiles.
Yeah, what's the fucking point in just punishing people if you don't rehabilitate them? If you don't work with them to make sure that they can be a functioning member of society when they leave prison, then what's the fucking point in them being in there in the first place? Like, it's this like sick fucking like caveman style level of thinking that if you do something wrong that you should just be like fucking punished, that you should just be fucking beaten and then let out into the wild again, and so that you can probably fucking do it again. Like, what's the percentage of reoffending in the States? Does anyone know? I know that Sammy Jensen is there in the live chat, and he's like pretty engaged or whatever. So if you could just kind of Google that just like very, very quickly for me, because I'm pretty sure that it's like very, very, very high. I'm going to ballpark it, and I'm going to say it's about like 40% or something like that. But if you go to somewhere where they prioritize rehabilitation, somewhere like the fucking Nordic countries, like fucking Denmark, Sweden, Norway, it's ridiculously fucking low. It's ridiculously fucking low because they prioritize rehabilitation. Like, if punishment is going to be part of their rehabilitation, then absolutely fine. Sure, I can see that, right? But just
But it has to be a
prioritizing
process.
punishment and not like, oh my, like just absolutely barbaric.
But again, a lot of people when on the far right are not really interested in the whys. And when you're talking about rehabilitation, you have to, well, especially for the person that's being rehabilitated, they have to acknowledge why they've done what they've done and why they've acted the way they've acted in order to understand what's been going on and how to change. The only way of doing it is acknowledging what they've done and why they did it. And that's part of the rehabilitation process, is confronting those whys. This fucker is not interested in that. So, yeah.
Had you anything to add, Kendon?
No, not really. I think we've basically covered it. The only thing is that the only criminals you can't truly rehabilitate are psychopaths. They just learn to be more devious the next time round. But yeah, the idea that it's a meat cleaver approach. That's what he's offering. That's what he's endorsing. So I'm not keen on that position at all. We might as well move on. I've got nothing. Keeler's basically knocked it out again. So,
I'm sorry. I'm going to shut up now. I'll leave.
Contribute, Keeler, contribute. But yeah, let's just move on, and the pain will go away eventually.
Yeah.
Civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Well, all civilization has had hierarchy. So yes,
No, they don't.
abstract
No, they didn't.
art.
No, but what the fuck is that? No, oh my God, above. What is that? What is that logic? It's like, okay, so should we have this thing? Well, it's always been a thing. So, to say otherwise is absolutely ridiculous. It's the exact same as saying, should we outlaw rape? Well, rape has always been a thing. So, to try and do it is ridiculous. Like, what the fuck is that logic?
Well,
it's asking you a prescriptive question.
But it's also, there's another factor here is that it's the words obeyed and commanded. That's an authoritarian.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would argue, no, you don't need an authority. I mean, there are authorities, and there are but we choose to recognize them, if that makes a kind of sense. You don't need to obey someone who has commanded you. That is a militaristic authoritarian structure, which isn't necessary. So I would say softly disagree on that one, purely because of the word use. Again, that's if we take those words at literal value. It's again, he's not thinking about it. He's just bulldozing through these questions, these statements. So
yeah.
That doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Well, this is a dumb question because abstract art, by definition, represents something. It's abstract, right? It's not a still life of an apple. or something, it's abstract, so it is representative of something else. But very often it's just complete nonsense. And right, that should not be considered art. In order for something to be art, it has to be creative, not just a bunch of
The connoisseur of art, like.
Yeah.
canvas. Not a well-phrased question, but I strongly agree. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. I just said that. It's like they're reading my mind. Yes, strongly agree.
No, it's because you
It's a
did the
waste of
test
time
before,
to try
mate.
to rehabilitate some
70
criminals.
times, I
What do
think.
they mean by that? Do they mean some criminals are beyond rehabilitation? That's true. But do they mean that we shouldn't rehabilitate any criminals? No, that's crazy. I'll strongly disagree.
It says some. Look, where the fuck is the question? It says some.
Is it a waste of time to try and rehabilitate some criminals?
And then he goes on and he's like, oh, is it a waste of time to like try and do it with like anybody? Well, no, well, that's just dumb. You're dumb. That's not what the fucking question said.
No,
Oh
I mean,
my God, this guy
criminals,
is painful.
some criminals are psychopaths and therefore incapable of rehabilitation. So you just agree. I don't know. Never mind. Let us proceed.
Basically,
Business
what he's
person and
saying,
the
nobody should be
manufacturer are more important than the
rehabilitated.
writer and the artist.
Yeah.
Well, yes, in that they keep the blood moving through our economy, right? They keep things.
That's
going.
not surprising.
If you didn't have people to
Yeah.
come and fix your
He's far
toilet,
right.
civilization would collapse in about a week or so. But of course, when
They
we
don't
think
value
about
art.
civilization, we think about culture. That's what defines a civilization. So I will disagree with that. Everybody has a role to play. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers.
Agree.
I assume by homemaker,
He's
they're
gonna
not
say
just
agree.
referring to making sandwiches. I assume by homemaker, they're referring to raising children. If you're a mother, then you do have a responsibility to raise children. And it's more important, if you have children, than making some widget at a factory. So sure, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I knew he was going to agree with it. I absolutely
That's
knew
not
he was going to
surprising.
agree with it. Look, you know that this guy wants his fucking women to be pregnant and barefoot. Like, it's oh my God, it's just so, like, okay, are any of us going to, like, reasonably try and convince either each other or the live chat that if that question was phrased as fathers may have their careers, but their first duty is to, would he actually answer the same way? Maybe you might say yes. I like if it says fathers rather than mothers, I guarantee you he would hit strongly disagree. Strongly disagree. It. Oh my God! It's just.
So,
I love
Stephen,
the
I missed.
tantrums. I love it.
Stephen, I missed your question. You said, "Is anybody reasonably going to try to convince each other or the live chat that what?"
That if the question had have said fathers may have their careers, that he would answer the same way.
Well, he certainly believes in traditional gender roles. I mean, that's not even arguable. The only thing is that, yeah, it's a tough one. I would just say disagree. Instinctively, as women can go out and have jobs and make it work, and you can have house husbands, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it can be a traditional setting. And a traditional power dynamic, and that doesn't bother me. But the idea, their first duty is to be homemakers.
Yeah, it's that word duty. Yeah,
yeah, this is it.
They're
It's
like obligated to be homemakers, right? Yeah.
You are the sprog. You are the sprog maker. Therefore, you must stay at home more so than your husband does. I don't. The thing is, my argument's always been, if it's natural, it doesn't need to be enforced. So the idea that you have to command people to stay indoors is well, yeah, it's just silly, isn't it? Disagree. He's wrong. End of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising though, because again, he is one of those biblical people, like the ultra biblical. So the idea that stereotypical gender roles, and especially mothers or women being mothers only, and duty, again, you're talking about someone who believes in authoritarian politics. Therefore, duty is the most important thing to this person. So the duty to the home for women is paramount for ultra conservative Catholics.
I was going to say, the idea of homemaking being a duty is actually fine. I'm comfortable with that, but it doesn't have to be a woman's duty. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be gender specific.
It does if you believe in the Catholic Bible.
Yes, of course. I respect that. People who But that's the thing. It's mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Disagree. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that way round. That's the thing. We know it doesn't have to be that way round. It doesn't affect anybody negatively if it's the other way round. So the statement's daft. It shouldn't be disagreed. But yeah, you're right. He's a Catholic, so a passionate super Catholic. So yeah, he's going to click agree. I'm surprised he didn't pick strongly agree, to be honest.
Same.
Poorly phrased. I wouldn't use that phrasing, but that's this test obviously was written by a lib.
This test was written by
Written
somebody
by
who
a
is
lib.
capable of fucking writing at an 8th grade level, and you are clearly incapable of reading at an 8th grade level. This test has its problems, but it's not like it's trying to get a reaction. It's trying to get answers out of you to determine where you stand politically. This test has a purpose. Of course, there are problems. I've said it many, many times, but he's
Also, I do want to make the point that this test is not supposed to be analyzed in depth. It's supposed to be gut reaction, and
Yes.
that will actually show you where you stand politically properly. But when you're going through it, I think he did it 70 times, because he seems to be very emotionally invested in describing shit the way he sees it. But yeah, it's supposed to be gut reaction, not in-depth political analysis. So
I actually don't think that I've smoked this much on a stream before.
I know, yeah.
Like, I genuinely don't think I have. Like, okay, let's just carry on. Because if
International
not,
companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. Nah, give me a break. Strongly disagree. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. I do agree with that. Little kids.
So
want to
he doesn't
rebel
believe
against
that
everything
multinationals
that's
are exploiting developing countries. Like, so coffee, for instance, tea,
cocoa beans, probably.
Yeah, cocoa beans. Pretty much everything that we in the Western world value. Avocados. Here's the thing about avocados, right? Avocados is this new fucking fad in the last couple of years. What happens is that in certain developing nations, especially Latin America, where they grow, what tends to happen is small farmers do not get, they're rationed with their water. And the big multinationals get most of the water because they pay more. And therefore, the smaller farmers can't really get that water. And so their crops die. And then what happens? They have to sell their farms and start working for the multi-fucking national. That is literally what happens.
Who said that the age of empire is dead?
Yeah.
No, well, this is it. One of the reasons why I don't drink fair trade coffee. Someone actually asked me that. People, they made a big, well, exactly. They made a big thing about buying fair trade products, and I said, well, okay, it would be nice if that's what it actually was, but of course, what it does is just fixes the price of the crop for like 10 odd years or whatever. Whereas, so if the value of the crop increases, the farmer doesn't see an increase in profit. That's all fair trade is for. So I don't bother with it. I just, I'll try to avoid the worst corporations for this kind of abuse, but he's wrong. He's hilariously wrong. When it says plant genetic resources, I mean, I was thinking about experimentation like Frankenfoods in labs, but no, if you expand it to include just the raw crop, then there clearly are unethically exploiting resources of developing countries. That's well known, well documented,
and they'd admit it. They admit it. It's not a trade secret that they do it.
It's not a secret lefty conspiracy. They are openly doing this. But yeah, never mind. Mind. You can't get them all right.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Little kids want to rebel against everything, and they're like rebels without a cause, and they're pissed off at their parents. And it's much more mature, however, to recognize that you didn't just pop into being and out of thin air. You come from a tradition, and maybe you want to improve that tradition, sure. But you have to reconcile yourself to reality before you can do that.
Right. Okay. So the civil rights movement, the suffragettes, all of the, the fight for same-sex equality, the list goes on and on. No, like they're just little kids with and rebels with no cause. That's what they are.
I don't think that's where he was going with it. I think he actually acknowledges that, you need to reform things, but, you do have to respect the fact that authorities exist. So like there are courts of law, for example, there are governments and things like that. you have to recognize that they do have power over you. I think that's where he was. I'm being generous, but I think that's where he was going with it. So he's not saying reformists are nutters or immature children, because that would be insane. I mean, that wouldn't just be wrong; it would be crazy. But I think, there are people who refuse to recognize courts of law and things like that, and they do strike me as slightly cracked. So I think he's not as hardline as that, but he's that's what I've got.
Yeah. I was just going to say, as a completely aside point, Kendon, the issues that we were having on Wednesday is clearly down to your camera, because you have not crashed the vast majority of this.
I have actually lost you a couple of times, but that's why I've switched the camera off, because I'm so far away from the router and I haven't got my Ethernet cable yet that I thought if I switched it off and saved my bandwidth or something, I might be able to, be more useful to you. But so what I'll do is I'm talking to the housemates and seeing what we can do to relocate the router and then plug an Ethernet cable into it. So next time there should be no problems.
Yeah, but it's just particularly weird though that literally the only difference is that your camera isn't. But I mean, what I meant was that you haven't what's the
frozen,
had to refresh or frozen or had to crashed or anything else like that. That just hasn't happened, and the only difference literally is that you just have a camera. It was a completely aside point. Very, very sorry.
That's
but,
right.
Okay. Well.
Astrology accurately explains many things.
No.
So this one maybe could be unexpected. I think that's possibly true. I'm not someone to totally write off astrology. The Bible tells us not to consult astrologers, not because astrology is completely without any merit or reality. They tell us not to because it's evil and it compromises our free will. So I guess I don't know. Does it accurately explain many things? What does astrology do? You mean the things you read in the newspaper, or astrology suggesting that there is some rhythm to the universe? I guess I would have to agree, but I would encourage you. Never consult astrologers. You cannot be moral without being religious. You can be accidentally moral. And most people who say they're not religious are very religious. The actor Idris Elba just said that the Earth, which is a rock, by the way, gave us coronavirus because it's pissed off that we're throwing litter into the streets, or we're throwing plastic to the baby turtles. So that's a very religious idea. That's called pantheism. Some people say they're not religious at all, but actually men can become women because your body has nothing to do with who you really are.
Oh, fuck off.
Oh my god, of course he had to fucking do that. Just the amount of pivots that he's doing, he's just not look, I know that when I was doing my test, right, that I went off on rants and stuff like that, but I at least stuck to the issue that the statement had. He's bringing up oh my god.
Yeah, he had to throw in the jab, just like the Marxist jabs and stuff like that. And not the Marxist jabs, the Soviet jabs. He has to get in the fact that he's anti-choice. He has to get in the fact that he's transphobic. He had to get it in somewhere.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just going to
have absolutely nothing to do with the statements.
I'm just going to leave you two to kind of give your thoughts on this. I'm going to pee and grab the rest of my fags because I can only imagine that this is just going to get worse. And so, yeah.
I think these are the easy questions. We're getting to is this the last thing?
I think so.
So he's on page 5 now, so he has the rest of this one and then another one to go after that. But anyway, I do still have to pee anyway, so I'm definitely going to go.
Yeah.
I'll be back soon.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, I mean, the trans comment makes no sense in context. That's the first thing. His comment about astrology was just embarrassing because astrology is nonsense. It just is. I like the description of astrology as it's racism for women. I thought that was quite good.
Yeah,
that's quite a good line. But yeah, you can't use astrology to predict anything. It's just daft. And he's talking about people who say they're religious, but they're not religious, but they are really. There There is a kind of there is an argument. It's one that I've heard from numerous believers that because our cultures were fundamentally religious, that's how I think all cultures go through a religious phase. That a lot of the tenets we take as obvious do have a religious root. So you could argue that people like being kind to your fellow man is a Christian ideal. It's not exclusively Christian, but it's a Christian ideal. It came from Christianity.
Actually, a pagan.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's possible.
Pagan.
It comes from multiple sources, arguably, but yeah, it does come from a religious root. But what's that got to do with believing in transition? Is not a religious principle. However you spin it, whatever your position is, it's that silly man, just making noise with his tongue covered. Oh, I don't know.
His tongue covered.
Yeah,
I love that statement.
Yeah, it's a
making noise with his tongue covered.
Yeah, tongue
covered.
It's a Cockney phrase. Yeah. Tongue covered, shut your tongue covered. But yeah, no, he's Stephen's right. He's just thrust in the trans comment just to pander to his audience. That's all he's done.
Yeah, you have to get it. You have to get it in there somewhere.
It's not related to the point, so yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, there is a big argument that the majority of people, the overwhelming majority of people, grow up in religious homes, and they decide to leave that faith after when they become adults or as early as preteens, but they are raised with the undertones, as you said, of that faith, and therefore the moralism that you're taught as children comes from faith.
Yeah. No, I would. There is some truth to that. I would suggest.
But I do have to laugh. You can be accidentally moral without being religious. What?
Yeah. Even Ben Shapiro doesn't take that line. I mean, Ben Shapiro is very much right wing, but even Ben Shapiro recognizes that atheists can be moral. So Micheal Knowles is just talking crap at this point. I've no idea. It's as though the words coming out of his mouth weren't generated by conscious thought. It's like,
it's almost impressive how stupid he is.
It is.
Regressive.
I don't want to make general comments about his intellectual capabilities but he is just uttering stupid nonsense at this point. It's not, and he must know. Surely he must know.
Yeah. Are we ready to burst on with the rest?
Go ahead.
There's only a few minutes left, so hopefully it's not going to be too bad.
Says the person that paused after 30 seconds.
So their morality, which is a perverted morality, that has a basis in religion. Strongly agree. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Who's disadvantaged? I mean, that's loaded terminology anyway. Charity is better in that charity is a moral exchange. So when I give charity, some guy asks me for charity, I feel the grace, the goodness, the virtue of that act of charity. The beggar feels gratitude to me for what I did, and that's a nice moral relationship. Taxation, which is what they're talking about here with Social Security, there is no moral relationship. I think Dinesh D'Souza once explained this as the beggar asks me for.
Okay, if you're unironically referencing fucking Dinesh D'Souza, like you're just like instantly just not to be taken seriously.
For my sandwich. I'm eating my sandwich and enjoying it. And then Barack Obama rides up on a white horse and points a gun at my head and says, "Give the beggar your sandwich." I don't feel the act of charity because I didn't choose to give charity. The beggar doesn't feel gratitude. He feels entitlement. And Barack Obama feels that he's done something productive, even though he's done nothing at all.
Virtue signaling.
I guess so.
That's what he's talking about there, virtue signaling, which is not what this question is asking about at all. Charity, like we discussed this on the when you were doing it. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. I disagreed with it, for the simple reason that there should be, in my view, situations where Social Security, because you pay taxes in a country or because you participate in society, that society has a duty of care towards you. So Social Security can include healthcare. It can include dental care. It can include it can include disability. It includes a hell of a lot of things. Housing For people who are on low and middle incomes who cannot afford housing in the housing market, especially at the moment, yeah, they need the government to step in and provide housing sometimes. And I think the charity lets them off the hook. We have the likes of Focus Ireland and homeless charities who are letting the government off the hook by masking how severe the homeless crisis is. That's just one example.
Well, no, so I mean, Keela, I think I come at this from the opposite angle. I would suggest that he's right in the sense that charity is better than social security because there is a virtue to giving and a recognition of virtue with receiving. The only problem is, of course, is that you can't guarantee that people will be charitable. So the idea that, you know, I think in his ideal world, there would be no social security, there would be no welfare state, and he would rely 100% on charitable contributions from, you know, individuals or private companies or whatever. Well, that's not sustainable. You know, you need, because if people choose not to be charitable, then how would the sufferers deal with their crises? They wouldn't have anything to fall back on. So
but again,
I would suggest that a social security is necessary, is better than genuine, so as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. I have to disagree, purely because I can't rely on people to actually do their moral duty and provide.
Here's the thing. No. I'll give you an example. Okay, I'm from a lone parent background. My dad was abusive. My mother left my dad. She has 2 disabilities, physical disabilities. She could not work. Should she be housed? Should she have healthcare? Should she have food in her stomach if she is not able to fucking work? That's the point. Because here's the problem: a lot of the care roles, first of all. A lot of the care roles in our society fall to women, even now, even in today's standards. A lot of the carers are women. A lot of the parental figures are women. A lot of people in childcare are women. A lot of people in education in the lower levels are women. And that's not trying to renew stereotypes. That's just pretty much a fact. And so therefore, there are certain roles in our society that women do, or that individuals do, sorry, not women, but that individuals do, that are not of monetary value in our society. They're not seen as monetary valuable. We don't pay, there are certain societies that don't pay mothers to or parents to raise their children. Thankfully, in Ireland, we have what's known as child benefit, where the state recognizes that it has a relationship and a role and a duty of care to every child in this country, regardless of their background. And it is that money is for the child. It is not for the parents. It is dedicated to the child. It's recognizing that states, and this is the problem, he's not for a state really. He's for corporate control, basically. So when you have a state, they have a duty of care to every human being that's born into that society. Otherwise, why would you have a state? Why would you have a government? Do you know what I mean?
But it's the extent of the duty of care. That's the only question. As I say, in principle, charity is better than social security, but I can't guarantee charity, so I have to rely on social security.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's disagreeing, he should say it.
I suppose it's the absolute. It's the absolute nature of the question. Charity is better, not sometimes better, but charity is better. It's the absolute state.
And as long as we're just talking about dictionary definitions or whatever, then I would argue yes, charity is better than social security. But we don't live in the idyllic world; we live in the real world. In the real world, people are not charitable enough to replace, I don't know, the NHS. So realistically, it's a bust. It should be disagree at least. So yeah, the way he's describing the relationship between the charitable and the receiver of charity, yeah, that's nice. It's terribly warm and fluffy, but that's not how it works in the real world, and that's why his answer to this statement is wrong. I would posit.
Yeah, I mean, my kind of 2 cents on it would be like, even in his own ridiculous kind of like argument that he tried to use to prove his point, like even that kind of backfired because he was kind of basically saying like, oh well, if Obama rides up on a white horse and forces somebody to give then like his overall point was, well, I mean, like what benefit does that give to the beggar? Well, they have a sandwich now, whereas probably
food in this
beforehand they might not have because they're a beggar.
Yeah,
They're in that
that's
situation. The person who gave them the sandwich, or who in his example was forced to give the sandwich, they can probably just go out and buy another one. Now that's not obviously ideal, and that's not obviously the way that we should be doing things. Nobody should be holding a gun to someone's head and forcing them to do charitable works. And we can all kind of agree on that. But even in his own fucking example, it still backfires because the beggar now has a sandwich, whereas otherwise he wouldn't have.
Yes, but his argument, I would say, is that the beggar benefits materially, but not spiritually, because he thinks that now he's entitled to take a sandwich off of the guy who's being forced to
Who's
gunpoint
worked
to
for
do
it.
so. Yeah, that's the argument, and I would
It
see
is the
that.
deserving poor argument.
Yeah, I can see the logic behind that argument, but unfortunately, charity is better than social security. It just isn't. It isn't because it's not practical. That's it. That's my take on it. So yeah, he's wrong. He's just
Again.
Yes, again, that does seem to be the status quo for this video.
Wrong
I
again.
have to agree. Some people are naturally unlucky. Yeah, I think that's true. Agree. Strongly agree. People have disadvantages. Sometimes our suffering can become a great advantage because
Not natural, though.
it deepens our understanding of the world. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. I strongly agree. The trouble is, in public schools, they're instilling all the wrong kind of religious values. They're instilling gender theory in pre-kindergarten.
Not a religion.
That's really happening right now. They instill all sorts of madness. Very often they instill a hatred of one's country. They instill a hatred of one's civilization.
Okay, so first off, they're all none of the things that he gave a criticism of, none of them are religions. They're not religions. But also, he instills gender theory to his kids when he dresses his son in blue and his daughter in pink. That is gender theory. So the fact that he's trying to fucking criticize this is ridiculous. Every single person on the fucking planet instills gender theory in our kids. That this is oh my god above. He's so fucking stupid.
Can I just, because you just triggered something in me, just a memory. Also, pre 200 years ago, or actually I think 150 years ago, the traditional roles for or colors for male and female, the male was blue and the male was pink because it was seen as more bold and eye-catching, and therefore it was for males. And the blue, which was seen as purity, were for females. So up until about 150 years ago, the norm was to dress your daughter in blue and your son in pink and red. Wanted to, just a side note.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's indeed perfectly true. But the basic point is, he says they're instilling the wrong religious values, and then he just goes off on one about gender theory, which is not a religion. Yeah. So he's just put. I think this man is experiencing a brain fart. That's
but you see, here's the problem. A lot of these ultra right-wing conservatives, not to mess them up with normal conservatives, but the ultra right-wing conservatives try to pass science off as a religion. That's what they do. They try to pass science off as a religion.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, which if it became a question on this test, which unfortunately it isn't, we would know that he would say strongly. If there was a question on this test that was, evolution is a religion, he would say strongly agree to that question. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, scientism is arguably a doctrine of faith, but science, the method, is itself just a tool by which we understand the material universe. So yeah, the people who think that science, I am in agreement with both of you. Let's watch more of this horrendous crap.
I do agree that it's important. We just got to make sure they're they're teaching the right religious values. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Strongly agree. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Well, I suppose you got to weigh the alternatives here. Are you talking about a world in which there are zillions of newborn babies who are being put up for
Zillions?
adoption?
Did he really
Zillions.
say
Homes
zillions?
for those newborn babies to be adopted into? Because that's not the
Oh,
world
for
we
fuck's
live in.
sake.
The world we live in, there are 32 couples waiting to adopt for every newborn that's put up
That's
for
because of
adoption in the
the
United
fucking
States.
red tape.
So at that point, you have
Yep.
to come to a decision. What is
That
the
is
best
not
place
because there's too many
for
babies or not
child
enough
to be
babies.
raised in? And if you believe that men and women are different and they complement
Can you
one
just pause
another,
that?
and then child
Because I do want to make that point. Let's be very fucking clear here. There are plenty of children in homes, in foster homes, in orphanages, modern day orphanages, obviously, all around the world, even in America. But the problem is for these nice Christian homes who are waiting, 32 couples waiting for one baby, is that they want a baby. They don't want a child. And that's where a lot of the problems lie. That and this is one of the reasons why I don't get on with anti-choicers. One of the problems is if you force a human being to be a parent as a punishment for sex, and they are not a good parent, what happens to that child? You don't want that child because you want a new baby to pass off as your own. And that's what's happening to a lot of the children that are in foster care and permanent homes. They're waiting for a child, but because they've reached a certain age, most couples are not interested because there's too many behavioral or historical issues with that child. They will not give that child a home. So it is factually inaccurate to say that there are not enough babies for the amount of couples or individuals who want to adopt or who want to foster. There's plenty. They're just not the right age.
Yeah, there's also the kind of argument which is what was the fuck? Oh yeah, that like, so kind of piggybacking off of what Keela had said, you know, that like if there's parents who, like, let's just face it, aren't very good at being parents, you know, like parents who will feed their kids lard for breakfast and then wonder why they can't get upstairs, where, you know, then the state or social services will come in and will take those, like who will take a child out. But if they happen to take, like, you know, 2-3 kids out of the home, people who want to adopt typically don't want
more than one. Yeah.
Don't want more than one. But they also don't want to, you know, split up kids who have entered the foster system together. So like they would be siblings, but they don't want to break up the siblings because, you know, the idea is, you know, that they're like that they're a fucking a support mechanism for each other because they're now in the foster system. So there are extremely few people who are willing to take 2, if not 3 kids, you know, at once because they're siblings. So there's obviously, so there is also that as well. But yeah, the whole idea that there's like that there's all of these, you know, good intentioned moral people who want to adopt babies, and there's just no, it's,
And there's no baby to be had. Bollocks.
Yeah, it's complete horseshit.
It just frustrates me. That argument just really frustrates me, and I've had to deal with it for the last number of years. Like really up close, and it's just gross.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Kendon, had you anything to add or throw in?
No, not really. I think you've covered all bases, to be honest. He's just waffling on about rubbish. So I suggest we proceed and find more waffle in the short time we have left with this video.
Okay, well, look, on the plus side, we only have another 2.5 minutes to go. So that's the plus side.
that'll take us another half an hour. Right, let's
probably,
go.
but fingers crossed.
Want to have a right to a mother and father, then surely you have to disagree with this question, which I do. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Well, this question ignores federalism for one.
Is he going to
It
take
ignores
away the porn?
wills of local populations.
Yep.
It ignores the type of pornography, some of which is truly obscene, and we would jail people for it on the federal level as recently as 10 or 11 years ago. So I would have to disagree with that. Not strongly disagree.
That's
disagree.
not
What
that's
goes on in the
surprising that
private
you
bedroom
didn't
between
strongly disagree.
Yeah. It is a little bit surprising. Yeah.
I'd have to disagree with that. Not strongly disagree, but disagree. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. I don't know what's going on in there. Is the guy like smacking the lady around and tying?
Oh
her
my
up
God!
and
Oh my God!
Because
That's
I think it is the business of everybody.
consenting adults, consenting, so they consent to what's happening. Don't kink shame.
No, it's
King
not just
shame?
consent. It's not just consent though. It's also safe and sane. In the BDSM
Yes.
community, it's safe, sane, and consensual. So yeah, I think what he's doing is he's picking on a logical extreme. I agree that what goes on in a private bedroom is not the business of the state. It just isn't. I don't understand why a government would want to get involved. But
And there's a difference between abuse and two consenting adults. Like, big difference.
No, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, I just agree because I don't feel strongly on the issue. But what he's about to do is suggest why he's going to pick. I wonder if he's going to pick click disagree. I wonder if he's going to just click disagree. Because he's now going to take the logical extreme of some guy beating his wife to suggest that the state should intervene. Because again, as you've pointed out, he's an authoritarian. So yeah,
he's
Let's see
into
what
kink shaming. He's into kink shaming.
Yeah.
I mean, Keela said it, but consenting adults. Consenting adult. Oh my God. But he is.
Yep.
I genuinely feel as though my IQ is being lowered the more that I watch this video.
It's just
As in,
entertaining to see your reaction.
My brain is less lumpy and it is now more smooth the longer that I am watching this fucking video. It is, oh my God, above.
All right, continue.
Just press play, man.
Some
Just
people
press
say you can't
play.
legislate morality. All laws legislate morality. So I disagree with that. No one can feel naturally homosexual. I think people can probably feel naturally homosexual. Now, what you do at that point is probably a question
Ignore.
for your religious point of view or your moral or ethical point of view, but I'm sure there are natural longings. These days, openness about sex has gone too far.
Sorry, wait a minute. Hang on, wait a minute.
Strongly
Pause a
agree.
second.
Yeah, you just said that.
Pause a second. He just said no one can feel naturally homosexual, and he agrees that people can feel naturally homosexual. Sorry, I'm getting confused by the negative.
Yeah.
No, he says no one can
he
feel.
said
Forget it.
people can have urges, but he's taking the Mormon view on it that you should just ignore your urges.
Yeah, good luck with
Yeah.
that.
That's what he's doing.
Good luck with that. Right, moving on.
Belongings. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. Strongly agree. I just read a New York City sex guide to surviving.
Oh, he's reading the sex guides.
It was the filthiest document I've read in probably years.
And look at the
it was
smile
gone
on
too
his
far.
face. He enjoyed it.
I tweeted.
Wait, whoa. I'm so sorry. I have to. Where the fuck is my mouse? There it is. I have to.
I agree
Where
with
the
him.
fuck
that
is
I
the
think-
video? There we go.
New York
I agree with
City
him.
sex guide to surviving the coronavirus pandemic.
New York.
Sex
It was the
guide.
filthiest document
Oh,
I've read in
no,
probably years.
oh God.
So yeah,
Stop.
Sorry, what were you saying, Kendall?
No, I was just going to say, I think that there is an argument that we've become too open about sex in society, not so much that people are talking about, I don't know, homosexuality or whatever, that I think I worry that children are exposed to content that they shouldn't be exposed to. I don't know if that's what the statement means by openness. But I'm not a fan of the fact that kids in the playground, like 5 years old, are singing that song. I remember I was patrolling a playground, during break time, and the kids who were 5 years old were singing that song S&M by Rihanna. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
I may be bad, but I'm perfectly good at it. Sex in the air, baby. I love the smell of it. Sticks and stones may break
Yeah.
my bones, but chains and whips excite me. It's like, you are 5. You should not
They don't
know.
understand the connotations of it.
They
Yeah.
do. They don't understand the connotations of it. But when you combine that with, you can watch Pornhub on your mobile phone now. It worries me. It worries me that with.
But I don't mean to be bad, but it's always been a thing. I remember, right? My cousin, we were on a bus, and it was mid-90s. There was that song. I think it was mid-90s anyway, or late 90s. Do you remember that song? I want to have sex on the beach. She would get on the bus singing that at 5 years old.
Yeah, I don't remember singing songs like that when I was 5. I must have had a very.
She got onto the bus. She got onto the bus singing that at the height of her, at the highest level of her voice. She fucking screamed it out. She didn't know what sex was.
But then my idea of a sinful indulgence is like 2 sugars in my tea. So to be honest, I do think that the trouble is, openness would be fine for me if it was age appropriate, but I'm not convinced it is age appropriate because we can't regulate it. So we've given up. That's the only thing I would, but I guarantee he's going to take this down a really odd path and suggest that, gays should stay in the closet or something. I guarantee it. I put money on it if I had the cash.
I googled the New York City sex guide because I was super interested. I was just super interested into what this guy considers, to be like, because he had said that it was the filthiest document that he's read in years. So it says that you can get COVID-19 from a person who has the virus, especially particles in saliva, mucus, or the breath of people with COVID-19 if you don't have symptoms. Avoid kissing, avoid rimming.
Rimming?
Yeah, that's a little bit. Well, it's a little okay. Like, we do not know if COVID-19 can spread through vaginal or anal sex. We know that other coronaviruses do not spread through sex. This means that have sex only with people who are close to you. You or your safest sex partner. Masturbation will not spread COVID-19, especially if you wash your hand and any sex toys with soap and water for at least 20 seconds before and after sex. The next safest partner is someone that you live with. So like if you're living with like a partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse, whoever, you should limit close contact, including sex with anyone outside of your household. That's kind of like
that's just
straightforward.
I don't mind about it. I think what they're doing there is just seeing how fucked up people are and seeing if they'll see the incest undertones in that.
Well, okay, that's nowhere near where my brain was going to, but again,
Yeah, no,
all right.
I wasn't. And I know you should keep it all in the family, but no, I wasn't there either. No. But yeah, it's clearly not that filthy, really. I mean, it uses naughty words.
Oh, it goes on. If 2 is company, then 3 or more is definitely a crowd. Large gatherings of any type are not safe during COVID-19. Close contact with multiple people should be avoided. I mean, that's like, all of this is kind of basic, like, straightforward. If you usually meet your sex partners online or make a living by having sex, consider taking a break from in-person dates, video dates, sexting, and subscription-based fan platforms. So basically OnlyFans. Sexy Zoom parties or other chat rooms may be the options for you. This is really just self-explanatory. Like, these are really basic.
Stuff.
It also sounds really bland, if I'm being honest. I was expecting sort of, really highly erotically charged language, but no, there's none of that. It's very clinical. So yeah, he's just talking crap.
It's kind of getting like maybe like a little bit like it's make it a little kinky. Be creative with your sexual positions and physical barriers like walls that allow sexual contact while preventing close face-to-face contact. Masturbate together. Condoms and dental dams can reduce contact with saliva, semen or feces. Well, no, okay, if you're doing anal, I mean, there's particles there, sure. Skip sex if you or your partner is not feeling well. That's, I mean,
basic common sense, really.
Yeah, you could HIV, other STIs are unintended pregnancy, HIV, using condoms, using condoms again, pregnancy. It's just talking about reproductive health. Like, this is basic. That's it. It's literally, oh my God, that's the filthiest document that this guy could find. Like,
No, that's assuming that he actually read it and he isn't just lying to the camera.
Until
Or he has read it, assumes that you won't read it, and therefore will just claim it's the filthiest document without actually citing any quotations.
Stop the machine rimming.
Yeah.
Any article that has the word rimming in it, he just stops immediately.
But yeah, it's he opened that, like, on the assumption that he actually did open the article, the word rimming like popped off of the screen and reacted very, very negatively towards his like Christian barrier, and he had to clutch his pearls and have a little cry. And yeah, it's just, oh God.
He's blind.
Yeah.
That must be all the masturbation.
Probably. Oh, there we go.
Someone got the reference.
Is it going too far? I tweeted it out and it got so much play they ended up deleting it. So I'm doing my part to turn back.
I just read it. What the fuck? I just read it. They obviously didn't fucking delete it. What the fuck is this guy talking about? They deleted it. I just read it. So I obviously didn't fucking delete it. What the fuck?
Was he talking about that, or was he talking about something else?
No, because he said, wait, I'll play it for you.
It was the filthiest document I've read in probably years. So yeah, is it going too far? I tweeted it out and it got so much play they ended up deleting it. So I'm doing.
Oh, okay.
There you go. He said that he tweeted it out and it got so much play that they deleted it, but they clearly didn't. Like, clearly didn't.
My part to turn back the tide of the sexual revolution. Let's see where I stand. Okay, so it's telling me all the different places. So like Stalin is the authoritarian left. I said Bernie Sanders. Gandhi is the libertarian left. Hitler is the authoritarian right. Thatcher is the authoritarian right. I like that the only one of these grids that they put two people into is Hitler and Margaret Thatcher. Like, okay, guys, cool. Everyone else, libertarian right is Milton Friedman. Libertarian left is Gandhi. Authoritarian left is Stalin. But then you got Hitler, and Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady. Okay, the Iron Cross and the Iron Lady.
But they were like very authoritarian, right? Though, like, what's the like?
Is that him?
I think no. I don't think authoritarian right. I don't think that's entirely fair for Mrs. Thatcher. Not a big admirer of Mrs. Thatcher. She made a lot of crass mistakes, but I think there is given as well on this grid that there's very little between Hitler and Thatcher. I don't think that's I don't think that's an entirely fair assessment.
So where would you put Thatcher on this map? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know. Without going through all the questions and pretending to be Maggie, I don't think I can.
No, but knowing where Maggie Thatcher stood.
Are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Are you there? Oh, good. Without going through all the questions and pretending to be Maggie, I'm not sure I could comfortably predict where I'd put her.
Because I would put her on the authoritarian right.
Yeah, but it's a question of, she's definitely right wing, but in terms of her economic policy, she was actually rather neoliberal. She was rather liberal in a
liberal. Right, liberal is liberalism. Neoliberalism is authoritarian. I would class neoliberalism as authoritarian because it relies on political oppression in order to push through some of the free market policies which benefit business but does not benefit, because it benefits the business, that antagonistic relationship with the workers. And again, I wouldn't consider myself left, but there is certain policies in economics that clash with the interests of workers. That's why workers have unions. That's why there's a bosses union in certain countries. Ours is IBEC. But neoliberalism directly conflicts with the interest of certain workers' rights, and pushing through policies that allow for neoliberalism and those policies to be increase and that power to be increased, that is authoritarian. Because you're going against the will of the people, really, or the interest. Sorry, not the will.
No, the more
interest of the people.
the more if we accept your premises, the more you describe it, the more I can concede defeat. I think you are right. So, I just don't put her in the same. I just don't think of her as the same character as Hitler. But I mean, because it's obvious, But yeah, I suppose they're both you're right. They're both authoritarian.
They're different levels.
Yeah. So, all right, then I can see. I concede the point. Let us proceed. What does he come up with?
As I predicted, slightly on the authoritarian right. 1.5 to the right on economics. I scored a 3.69 to authoritarian. So I'm almost exactly where I predicted I would be, despite all of their extremely dumb
See, and this is the problem that I have, where he predicted he would be. The only way he could have predicted where he would be is if he took the test several times in order to know which options would lead him to that desired outcome.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that if you actually compare his result with the model that was presented earlier, he's only just a few steps down from Adolf Hitler. Just thought I'd leave that there.
Yeah,
he's literally on the same. He's literally on the same micro axis as Adolf Hitler. Just thought I'd leave that there.
The other thing is, you are absolutely not 100% guaranteed of what he answered, how he answered, because there are so many cuts that this could have been the 50th time that he actually took the test of one question, and the second time he took the test on another question. So therefore, because the amount of cuts, you're not seeing it done like what you did, Stephen, whereas you shared your screen. We could see you taking the test as you were going. You don't know what he actually clicked or how many times he did this, because there's so many cuts in the video, because there's so many angles in the video. So I will leave that in as a bone of contention there, that I do think in order to get the desired result that he wanted, he had to justify that then with his answers or his explanations of the questions or whatever. That was not done in just one take. That was not done with just one take of the test. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's probably just going to waffle on about some other horseshit. So we'll just where the fuck is the thing? Stop straight. There we go.
Yay, we made it through.
We did somehow. I think I counted 8 cigarettes that I've had in less than 3 hours, which is holy fuck, my lungs are going to be not exactly thanking me tomorrow morning, but there we go.
You mean today?
Today, yeah.
Today,
yeah,
later today.
Yeah, later. I am kind of one of those people that don't consider it tomorrow until I wake up, but I get, I get technically speaking what you're saying. Oh God, that was actually painful.
Yep.
That was actually
but also
painful.
Entertaining.
Oh God, yeah, no, entertaining as fuck. I do just want to say though, some amount of congratulations I think has to be kind of, made that we turned a literally just barely short of 22-minute long video into 2 hours and 52 minutes. So,
yep.
There's a little bit of yeah, there's there's something to be said there. Oh, good God above. Right, okay.
You know me, I can fucking talk for Ireland.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of almost the danger of having me and you on the same...
yeah, because we bounce off each other.
yeah, on the same thing. But, oh, God above. Where... Yes, sorry. I'm trying to look for the fucking preview thing that I was going to be talking about on Wednesday.
Well, while you're looking for that, if people want to have a look at my channel, I did a live stream last night, but I put up the video. So Eye on Society is looking at, it's a new show that I'm doing on my channel. It's looking at the issues in our society and how they got to become issues. So the first one was on Myanmar, aka Burma, for those of you who are not up to term with what the fuck Myanmar is. And yeah, so what basically happens is I do an introductory video for about 10-15 minutes and explain the history of the issue, and then have a live stream with guests, and we talk about what's currently happening, what could happen into the future, without being too biased or without telling people how to feel about it, because that's one of the problems that I have with news media outlets, that they over exaggerate the problem or they undervalue the issue. So what I'm trying to do with that show is to create a situation where I give you the information, you listen, you digest, you take part, and decide where you stand on the issue, wherever that is. Next month, the start of April, I have a guy called Mr. Clapperjack coming on. He lives in Belarus. We are going to be talking about the situation that happened there last summer and late last year. So, and what's happened since, because it's very interesting what's happening in Belarus. And that's the next one.
So yeah, so I have the preview up. Let's just take a look at why I'm going to be responding to this.
Dr. Carl here was the first one to celebrate me being
Carlin.
from Quinn.
Carlin. Well, I celebrated that you were banned on Twitter because you repeatedly tweeted that my husband should be deported, Lauren. And
He's
now
an illegal alien.
I don't really know how much you know about me, but I'm probably
It's coming
the
up.
most vocal anti-children transitioning person on the internet. It's what I'm.
Right.
It's well, I let you speak.
The best thing you can do for us is grow out your mustache and tell people not to live like you.
Wow.
That
That
is
was
why I
genuinely
am going to be
impressive.
responding to.
Yeah. Nice lady.
Yeah, so this so it's going to be a little bit of like half and half. So I hadn't watched the Micheal Knowles compass test video, but I have watched about 20 minutes of that video. Now it's 51 minutes long. So like I've seen just kind of like a little bit less than half of it, but yeah, like that's how the video kind of starts out. It's that kind of like, you know, coming up on this episode to kind of draw people in, right? And as soon as I kind of seen that, I was like, oh, there's a contender for something to me to react to. And then I got about 20 minutes into it and I was like, oh God, fuck me. Right, okay, that's definitely there's a few kind of hot takes. It gets worse than that. If you can imagine it gets worse than that.
Oh, I've heard all the arguments against because I've been a member of Belong To since I was 13. Belong To is an Irish organization set up for bisexual and transgender children, and they help people come to terms with their situation, where they stand on their own body image and their own sexual image. So, I also volunteered with them as well. So I was a counselor there with them. So I've seen a lot of hatred. I've seen a lot of hatred from families, where transgender children have been rejected by families, and you would not believe, well, you would believe the vitriol that I've heard over the years. It's not, and even from people who claim to be feminists, we call them TERFs, which is trans exclusionary radical feminists. I don't like radical feminists, but yeah, I mean the vitriol and the bullshit that comes out of their mouth, it's upsetting.
So yeah, so that's going to be my live stream on Wednesday. Akila's said what's coming up on hers. Kendon, do you have you got any like TikToks planned? Do you have any I'm very unfamiliar with the platform. Like, can you schedule videos to go up after at a certain, or do you just post them? Or
you can film TikToks in advance and then just upload them as and when, as per time. I don't bother doing that. I just talk into a phone and upload and hope that I don't get cancelled. That seems to be my publication tactic. So I have nothing. You have channels that are established and growing. My channel doesn't exist yet. As I say, if you fancy another chat over the interwebs with camera, a debate, I don't mind doing that. But as I say, at the moment, I'm not filming any YouTube videos as such. But soon that will come about. So you can find me on TikTok as @Kendon Far. Just search for me. You can find my videos there. Everyone's disappeared.
Cool. No, we're here. We're here.
No,
we're just
we're here.
listening.
Yeah. I will leave the link to Crafty's channel and to Kendon's TikTok down in the description. Kendon,
in a few hours. Sorry, I just remembered. Sorry, in a few hours I have Life on the Flip Side, and that's on Stephen Couple Reasons channel, but it will be on my channel in a few days. So that too. Sorry.
No, you're okay. What was I gonna say? I am wrapping up. I promise. What the fuck was I gonna say? I can't think of it now. Oh yes, that's what it was. Kendon, I have uploaded the conversation that we had to the drive. There's some processing that it's doing, but as soon as that's done, I will send that to you. I will send the link to the file on the Google Drive. So yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can respond to certain points in your TikTok. It's totally up to you. So that's kind of it then, really. That was very painful. It was very enjoyable, but it was mainly painful. So just thank you to everybody to Kendon and to Keela. Thank you to everybody who showed up in the live chat, and subscribe, do all that YouTuber bollocks, and we will talk to you on Wednesday.